What is going on, everybody? Hope we're all doing well. Looks like I'm coming through just fine. As you could probably see, I was reading through y'all's chatter because we've got some really interesting discussion around pace today, and I really appreciate that. I mean, I really do. Here's the game. Obviously, we're going through it, and we will get to all sorts of bits and pieces, but you guys bring up some interesting stuff about pace that I know I find really interesting as we've gone through this. I mean, the complicated piece about Ryan Pace, in my opinion, is that we're looking at a GM who hasn't been bad, classically speaking. They've been good too, right? I would to point out something that Threezy's World said. Let me try to put my thoughts together. I think that Ryan Pace's skill at finding people, a lot of the folks that he identifies, whether it's Robert Quinn, whether it's Khalil Mack, whether it's Akeem Hicks, whether it's Allen Robinson, a lot of the big ticket pieces that Pace has basically tagged and said, all right, I need you to play a big role in this team. By and large, they're coming through. I mean, this 2021 draft is awesome. At least it seems that way, right? You don't even have to think of Borum as some kind of mega starter. Even if you thought of him as a swing tackle, which he might do better than that, you will find a lot of good all across the draft. The trouble is that, yeah, no, exactly, Mike. I mean, there's tons of this stuff that I find that I look at and I say, I can't imagine the stress, the strain of having to make the call on what the team's direction is going to be going forward. I can't imagine how much it would suck for somebody like Pace just to pick him out, right? Like, for instance, all reports suggested that Cole Kmet was a Nagy bang the table pick. Does that mean that Cole Kmet's even been all that bad? Not necessarily, that we're getting lost in the weeds. The point is that if you ask me, I'm probably 55% make some change, 45% don't make change, because I get why Pace picks the players that he does. I think that he does tend to overpay for a lot of them. I mean, whether it's Tevin Jenkins with a second and a third round pick, like you said, two-stop, one winning season in 7 years. I mean, had a number 2 overall pick and didn't end up giving them their 4th year option or their 5th year option. There are enough, if you will, GM cardinal sins. Drafted a receiver at, was it 8th overall? And then they ended up being, I mean, just a massive, massive bust, right? In Kevin White. There are a lot of things that I feel like Ryan Pace has done well, and a lot of things that other GMs probably would have gotten fired for. And as it stands, there's nobody. Happy New Year, everybody. I did forget to say that. We have RPO in 2022. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Look at us, right? Look at us. The point is that I find myself, if there was something that I was most worried about within this Chicago Bears tenure, right? I am most worried about the Bears potentially retaining Pace, and then Pace tries to win it all, let's say next year, and ends up trying to get 2 to 4 players that are going to quote unquote fix the roster, right? And so, right, exactly, Jamie. It's not the players that I think he picks wrong. It's the resource management. But there are other sides to the coin, right? It's not as simple as saying, oh, because he struggles at this, there's no way to, like, there's no way to, what is the word I'm looking for? Oh, because he struggles at this, somebody else would be infinitely better and we would just get tremendously better players. Well, not necessarily. I mean, I get how complicated this is, because this really is like pulling a lot of things apart. But I don't know. I think the number one thing that I'm worried about is that the Bears would try to fix it all in 1 year, and I think it's a 2-year project at this stage. That's my opinion. Like John's saying, John De La Talia here, rarely does a GM survive 1 failed coaching hire. Rarely do they survive 2. Even rarer do they survive this setup where they had 12-4 season, and since then, or like not even since then, including that, I think Pace is roughly a 400 winning percentage over his 7 years in Chicago. So the question becomes, why does he need to be retained? I mean, you got to remember that if you get rid of Pace, you don't get rid of Pace's players, right? So Thomas Graham, Justin Fields, Tevin Jenkins, a lot of these guys are like or what is it? They'd stay on the roster. It's a matter of, I'm honestly glad it's not my decision looking at it. I mean, especially head coach. I thought head coach was going to be a much easier hire to determine, but I don't think the Bills have been so good that I'm necessarily hammering the table for Brian Daboll. I have come around. I wouldn't even call it come around. Like, the part of me that wants a leader at head coach has gotten a lot louder within myself, especially as I watch, whether it's Matt Nagy, whether it's Kyle Shanahan, whether it's Sean McVay. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of these teams where it almost seems as if the leadership of what drives the team is a smidge more important than just what scheme they're running. And that's no discredit to anybody. It's more to point out you need that scheme, but you also need leadership, proper delegation, and problem solving. But anyways, there's a lot to this. It's obviously a complex issue, but we could talk about it all in the context of a very goofy Chicago Bears game. Let me go ahead and end this poll, by the way. Let's see. Does closing that work? Did that take effect? We'll end it there. That's cool. But so anyways, let me see here. What are we saying? If I would replace Pace, there are a whole bunch of people that I've talked to with Brad over the cap that he's Brad OTC. I think now he's PFF Brad, but he knows a whole bunch of names that I think fit really well. One of the ones that comes up a whole lot is Jeff Ireland, but I'm not about to pretend that I'm near as schooled on GM candidates as I am on, say, head coach candidates, because they're a little bit less obvious, right? Anyways, Jordan, I'm with you. Sean Payton would be a pipe dream if they were, or like if the Bears figured out how to swing a trade for Sean Payton that wasn't too expensive. Highest I'd probably go is about a 3rd round pick. The Bears need their picks, for crying out loud. You can't give away 2 future firsts for Sean Payton. As good as a coach I think Sean Payton is, because you're doing the same thing that I feel like the Raiders did with Gruden, where you're saying, we're going to get a 10-year deal, and somewhere around year 6, this is going to go great. But yeah, anyways, Marcos, I think all the Ryan Day talk is as simple as he was Fields' college coach. Lorenzo, if I had to put a number 1 out there, it is probably Jim Harbaugh. Now, I need you guys to know, as a guy on the internet, my opinion means nothing. It means nothing at all, right? I care most about making sure that the Bears have the right people in place to interview candidates and within those interviews determine the right person going forward. I mean, you got to realize that because Jordan, I see all those, those emojis. It's like, here's the thing, like, we're looking at a bunch of candidates, like whether it's Byron Leftwich, who we're not sure what his role is going to be anyways, like, sorry, I'm seeing all the reaction. I didn't realize this was such a big reveal, right? But so I don't think Brian Daboll has particularly swooned me, if this makes sense, right? I am worried about what is his name? I'm really worried about Kellen Moore, honestly. I think Dallas's offense is so up and down with such a ridiculous amount of talent that I think everybody's really, really excited about Moore, as they should be. A lot of the offensive wrinkles that he's put out are cool. I just don't know how he is as a leader. Right? That's why I've said it on this channel before. If I was going to pick an offensive coordinator, I would I would love Josh McDaniels. I just don't believe in him at all as a head coach. I think that McDaniels would come in and try to be like a mini Belichick, and that really worries me. Right? I hear you, Harrison. But so, like, I look at a whole bunch of these different pieces, and you guys are right. I mean, there's a decent chance that Harbaugh doesn't leave Michigan. Nothing's a done deal, right? But what I find with Harbaugh would be a path to, you'd get a little bit of reclamation project, and you get a little bit of feel-good story since he's connected to Chicago. But you'd also get somebody who has head coaching experience. Somebody asked earlier about Byron Leftwich. Byron Leftwich is a perfectly good coach. Does that make him a head coach? I don't know. I mean, there are so many of these guys that I find myself looking at saying, just because they're a decent offensive coordinator doesn't mean they're a decent head coach. Like, as much as we dog on him here in Chicago because we got the worst of John Fox, right? It's rarer to find the Sean McVay, like Marcos said, that is both offensive guru and also a head coach. It's rarer to find that guy than it is to find somebody more like John Fox that cycles coordinators here and there, but his teams tend to play really good defense and good enough offense, and you end up coming away with the opinion that the guy's just a leader and a fundamental teacher. Doesn't mean John Fox was the best coach ever for the Bears. I'm not going there. Though I do wonder, I always find myself wondering how much of that 2018 defense had his fingerprints all over it, right? Exactly, atheist. You don't have to hire a quarterback guru and head coach. So at that point, I definitely, I don't know, the head coach carousel this year is just so weird and so complicated, right? If it was that easy, oh man, the Bears would jump all over it. Now, somebody asked about Sean Payton. Envy Dice, if the Bears could get Sean Payton in a reasonable manner, yeah, who wouldn't be excited about it, right? I think Sean Payton would be phenomenal in Chicago. I find myself thinking that that's a pipe dream. Like, I honestly wonder, and this is just my opinion, right? That there are always moments, especially during free agency, where like an agent will release a story. Say Allen Robinson hits free agency, right? And his agent, Brandon Parker, feeds to the media a story that the Bills, the Texans, and the Chiefs are all interested in him. And he just says that to somebody who reports it, right? That's how a lot of these guys like to drive interest. And part of me wonders whether the Sean Payton thing is a Pace Camp-led effort to try to convince George that there's something that only Pace can do, right? I don't want to be ridiculous at that stage. I just find myself wondering, where did this Peyton rumor come from? It's so weird and it's so unusually timed, right? So I'm not buying into it too much yet. If it was me, I'll believe it when I see it. I would have said the same thing about Mac, right? The Mac trade, that I'll believe it when I see it, and then it happened. So nobody says that that's impossible, right? It's just that he's got, a contract that takes him through 2026 in New Orleans. I don't understand why New Orleans would change away from a Super Bowl winning coach. Like, I'm not sure why they would look to reset. Like, maybe a rebuild would be one thing, but I don't get it. And so we'll believe it when we see it. The head coaching search is definitely one that's going to happen after the GM. Look, if the Bears do change GMs, watch for their connections, right? I mean, a lot of times these GMs don't get a job and hire somebody that they just don't know at all, right? And so if you get somebody from, say, the Steelers org, you can check that tree, and so on and so forth. I mean, like you guys are saying, if it is Jim Harbaugh, I'll ride with it, right? I mean, that's the key here. I'm not sitting here saying, like, I love Jim Harbaugh, get me Jim Harbaugh, or I hate the Bears. That's not the case at all. It's more that as a content creator, if I could be honest, I mean, on the football side of things, Harbaugh took a pretty rough around the edges San Francisco team, figured out where. Have a great one, Case. Always great having you for as long as we can. But so Harbaugh clearly has a knack for picking coordinators. You guys talked about how it was Greg Roman and also like Vic Fangio, one after another, or in as offensive and defensive coordinator. He turned around a San Francisco organization that seemed to get tired of him, but he won an awful lot of games during that time. So there's a lot to get excited about Harbaugh, and maybe for me personally, a lot of stories that I can work with, right? I mean, easy to tell the whole, like, he's from Chicago and he went to a Super Bowl, but he didn't win it. So he's got to go get that one ring with Chicago and Justin Fields. So, like, that's easy, right? Whether we want to get ourselves behind a hot new coordinator or somebody like Harbaugh, like a quote-unquote established winner, that's everybody's, that's up to y'all, honestly. I wish it was up to y'all, right? But it's up to McCaskies. It's up to all sorts of people that are way over our head at this point. Because, yeah, Alexander, I've heard the same thing, that Harbaugh in particular he really grates on people, that when you're winning, you'll work with it, and when you're not, maybe you won't. But unfortunately, Alexander, if I could point out a couple of coaches that I know come to mind, like Nick Saban, yeah, Nick Saban comes to mind. Bill Belichick comes to mind. I'm sure there are others that y'all could name. There are plenty of head coaches out there that are great when you're winning and not good when you're losing. They just haven't really lost ever. And so with somebody like Ditka's, or like with somebody like Harbaugh, maybe the answer is as simple as you have a franchise quarterback. I don't know. I mean, I really do believe in Fields at this point. It's not to say that I'm going to plant some flag and tell you with an 100% money back guarantee Fields is the answer, but I'll tell you that a lot of the things Fields does well, it's hard to do well, and a lot of the things that Fields is not good at are more fixable than other things. The question is, at this stage, who are the Bears going to pair him with? Can it be much worse than this? And speaking about that last part, I don't know. Atheist for a Cause, talking about Luke Fickell. Good question. I think pulling people up from college is always complicated. You got to remember that. Let's talk about this right here. Random play set. But the NFL game is not as schematic as I think the college game is. In college, you teach people one defense for 4 straight years, right? And then they play in their 3rd and their 4th year. In the NFL, you take a whole bunch of mercenaries, you load them into a defense, and you immediately try to get them to play as fast as humanly possible. The whole goal of being an NFL head coach is to get the most out of this pass rusher and that pass rusher and this linebacker, these 2 safeties. On Chicago's side, the whole goal of being a head coach is how do I take Eddie Jackson and immediately get the best possible result out of him, right? Khalib, what's up? If I was going to put a dark horse out there, by the way, and yes, this is right up my alley, I think somebody that could be a great NFL coach one of these days would be Dave Aranda. I mean, whether he would be, let's say, a defensive coordinator or whether he would be a NFL head coach, I think Dave Aranda has got the goods. I also think it's too early. Like Kay said, where there are some of these guys that you would definitely point at and you'd say, I think they could do it. I don't know if they could do it yet, but Aranda, I love the way he thinks about the game. It's evident in the way that he approaches like game management and calling, but I also think it's just way too early at this stage for him. But so speaking back on head coaching, you got to remember that if the goal is to get all these players, all 11 on each side of the field, or in the Bears case, right, trying to get Dave Montgomery and Andy Dalton and Cole Kmet and Darnell Mooney on the same page as fast as possible, right? You're trying to run whatever you can, whatever 12 to 18 play calls, if that's what it takes, possible, or that you're going to load together and get a successful offense out of. I mean, I think you guys have noticed by this point, it's week 17, right? The Bears basically run one play when it comes to running the ball over and over and over. They run outside zone, right? And they'll run some inside zone. They'll run some duo. They'll run some trap. They'll run some pin and pull. I'm not saying they don't have the other ones in the playbook. I'm saying that by and large, it's just outside zone, right? Where they would just push the ball one way or another. In the NFL, that's what you do. In college, there's a little more scheme. There's a little more ability to teach people, elevate. So as a long-winded answer to your question, Atheist, college coaches are interesting, but it's such a different racket. I think a lot of people end up feeling way more comfortable at this stage when promoting somebody from an NFL position up. And with Harbaugh, the nice cheat code is that you're not hiring him for Michigan. You're mostly hiring him for, for San Fran, with a little bit of Michigan, right? And like you said, Grant, recruiting and the lack of parity that you get also makes it very complicated to take college coaching and move up. And yeah, Alexander, it is tough to execute many plays well. And John, sometimes it feels like it. Bob, I completely agree. I mean, if there was something that I know I would be really excited about, it's an organizational restructure. I don't know what that's going to look like, right? Because I don't know how Pace would survive an organizational restructure. If you're starting over, like if you're getting a new football president, right? Or a president of football ops, and you're getting a new GM to go with them, and you're getting a new head coach to go with them, that all makes sense. Trying to say, let's get a new football president, let's leave the GM in place, but we're going to then get a new head coach to go in line with what these two think. Like, they'd have to really love Pace, and that's fine. I mean, George McCaskey does. At least it seems that way, right? But I don't know. Anyways, the reason that we're talking all this, if you watched this game, is because this is a weird one. I mean, like, let's go through the first 2 plays of the game, right? The very first 2 plays of this football game, I think, do a great job of just kind of talking through where we're at, right? Where the Giants, who, remember, the Bears entered this game 5-10. The Giants entered this game 4-11. So from a record perspective, they're pretty close, right? And then immediately, like, I'm talking first play into the game, let's walk through Akusai. We just did a whole bunch of talking about Ryan Pace and so on and so forth. Yeah, exactly, Bob. First play into the game, let's look at what the Bears are sitting in. So if you don't know the terminology, this would be what you would call like a very wide bear front, right? So it's weird because technically Quinn was sitting on the wide receiver in coverage. But if you think Quinn is going to stick with the slot receiver, I've got a bridge to sell you, right? So it kind of more emulates a wide bear front. That is actually, like, that name comes from the 85 Chicago Bears, who lined up 5 down just like this. But then they've got Roquan mugging up at the line of scrimmage. So what would you guys think? Because for the most part, what a quarterback should be thinking when they look at something like this is, I got to prep for a blitz, right? And so the quarterback has to start thinking worst case scenarios. They have to start thinking about, what am I going to do if I end up in trouble? And Mike Glennon does, to his credit, right? So Mike Glennon's going to take a look at Kenny Golladay right here. They're going to, if memory serves, I'm going entirely off the top of my head for this play because we're going to play it in just a second. But so they call a simple smash in where they're going to get a corner out here that's going to try to take the top out of Eddie Jackson, but really he's just trying to get him out of the way. Set a natural pick on Jalen Johnson so that Golladay can cut in as basically your hot route. Exactly. Right, James? Like you're saying, I'm doing a whole lot of what is it? Introduction for a really simple idea. You're going to blitz on first down. You're going to try to force that ball into coverage like quickly so that you can try to create a short little gain. So the Bears come, right? They're going to bring all 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, one little quirk about football that I think that sometimes gets lost in the weeds. If there is a free rusher, somebody's unblocked. The offensive line didn't screw up. It's just on the quarterback, right? Asong, I think the blitz that it might be similar, right? But this is so basic. To say it's the same blitz isn't to be exotic, right? But so at this play, I'll see if I can't find that Tuesday lane. But so from there, Gibson's obviously closing in, but the wild thing to me is that Glenn is not loaded to throw. Like, yes, Golladay is pretty tightly covered right here, and he doesn't end up breaking open. But even if he's not open, you've got to throw the ball at his feet, right? Like, this is not something, to your point, Colin O'Grady, about whether Desai stays on the new coaching staff. This isn't defensive genius. This is a quarterback that's just not paying attention, for lack of a better word. It is shocking to me he gets lit up like he does on this play, and the ball gets turned over. I mean, this is a perfect reminder of just how bad you can get, like, as a quarterback, because, man, right, Akusai? I mean, it's not like the blitz was on his blind side. We're looking at a clear blitz, if you ask me. I mean, even if it's a step up and a drop, which happens, right? Like where Roquan would step and then he'd drop out to coverage right there, you still have to honor the potential blitzers. You're going to see the offensive line pick everybody up. They do a really great job, honestly, on this play. He's got to see that 84 is going to get out of his way and throw the ball one way or another. Instead, he just stands there, eats a huge sack, and Bilal Nichols picks up the ball, almost puts it in the end zone. Like, Derek, I hear you about, like, it's shocking. He's Mike Glennon. I mean, yeah, but people keep signing the guy. Like, truly, Justin Fields, Nick Foles, Andy Dalton. I always like to say, in case there's a Lions, or if there's a Giants fan in here, because I hear you, I hear you, 3Z. Technically, it's nice to throw behind the blitzer. Like if at one point you maybe audible to a slant or something like that because you see Roquan creep up. Plenty have, and that can do a lot of good. But knowing the play call that you've got, like imagine you've got the controller in Madden. You just gotta like imagine what is it? B X Y RB. You just gotta hit B right now. Like you need to just let it loose, because even if you're throwing the ball at the ground, for all I care, you just gotta throw this ball. Instead, he doesn't. He gets annihilated. And again, this isn't some massive, like, incredible defensive moment, right? This is just getting smoked. Asong, I think he's their QB2. Like you're saying, I mean, Marcos, did he even see him? It's a great question. But so first play of the game, basic play. Immediately, the Bears have the ball at the 2. And immediately, I'm sure Bears fans were kind of thinking to themselves, so this is going better than I thought it would. But hey, we're Bears fans, right? So for some reason, I really won't understand, they put Tonga into the game, which is fun, right? But first play of the game, we got number 95 in. So just, that's a defensive lineman who's in. But hey, we're Bears fans. It takes us 3 downs in any setting to score. And if you don't immediately hear that and feel like an almost ice pick to your chest, like... I don't know what to say. I mean, it's so funny to me. As I watch the Bears film, 1st and goal, no chance they get in. 2nd and goal, no chance they get in. 3rd and goal, now we're talking, right? But so it's 1st down. They're gonna call a basic just fullback slam right up there, like a dive, right? Where they're gonna give it to the halfback, and fullback's just gonna cut up field. And hey, ironic piece is that it's everybody but Tonga that hits all their blocks, right? Jason Peters does a great job. Alex Bars, call it out. Cole Kmet, very solid job. By the time, honestly, the Bears hit their blocks so hard, you're going to see it from the other end. Daniels and Tonga bump into each other and kind of just lose their way, but it's enough for Montgomery to get into the end zone standing up, so nobody's that upset, right? Like, check this out. You're going to see Alex Bars and Jason Peters create a hole big enough to fit 2 linemen. Like, literally, 2 linemen stuff their way through that hole. You can't drive a Mack truck through it, but you can definitely fit a running back through. And so the 2 of them just body mashed their way through the hole. The Bears are up 7-0 out of absolutely nowhere. I mean, this was so funny, in my opinion. I mean, it was because the game starts, and 2 plays in, Allison asked me, hey, so how's the game going? And I'm like, the Bears are winning. Not that I'm surprised that way, but they didn't start with the ball, and we're not even a minute in, right? But so anyways, honestly, Bob, I haven't been a huge fan of Bars generally. I mean, look, it's not as if he's underrated. I would say that he's very normally rated, right? But so that was a good play on his part. Like, that'll do. So then the Bears get the ball back, and look, we don't need to tell like the whole story, but the gist is that from this moment, the Giants decided they were going to be really run heavy. And we can show a couple things. Like, I can show you where I think I'm worried about the Bears. Like, this was a game that was a nice reminder that their defensive line is not as dominant as they once were. I'll tell you something I didn't think originally watching the game. The Giants did a really good job running the football. Like, they would pick up 2 to 3 first downs a drive exclusively running the ball, for crying out loud. I mean, they weren't throwing it at all. They were still generating some yards. Now, nobody cares about yards, right? I mean, this was also a nice reminder that just because they ran the ball well doesn't mean that they were successful on offense. 3 points should speak for itself, and has in Chicago for quite some time when it comes to Justin Fields. But it was really interesting watching this, because I feel like the Giants did a really good job handling their blocks, and even so, you still saw some major talent. I mean, like, watch the running matchup at this stage between Roquan Smith and Saquon Barkley. It's simple, right? But Roquan at that point sees 71 coming up to get him and is able to break away pretty easily. And then Roquan gets over there, forces a cutback, and yes, Saquon's able to get 8 yards out of it, partially because Hicks misses the tackle like we just saw right there. But watching the way that Roquan moves has really sold me this year. It's not just the Giants. 58 is able to basically beat just about anybody in a foot race to edges. So if you think about it as a triangle, right? The running back, when they take the handoff, say they take the handoff right around here. If they want to get to here, and the line of scrimmage is here, then that means that you're looking at a hypotenuse distance that's not all that, or that's pretty long, right? And Roquan, who's not like running back fast, right, is able to win any race along the straight edge almost every time. It's shocking looking at how well he moves, because Roquan realizes he doesn't have to win. He doesn't have to be fastest triangle. He just needs to I hate this. Won't be that long. He just needs to win the race to the sidelines to force a 2-yard gain. Honestly, we're going to start speeding up here fairly soon because you're stuff like this often enough. I think the stream just went in and out. Let me know if everything's all right. But so, anyways, back to it. You'll see holes open up. They did a good job here. But so, the Giants had a solid running game. Yeah, it gave me a little ding in Streamlabs. It just wasn't enough. It's hard to beat people just running the ball unless you're the 49ers. And yeah, Saquon's definitely not the player that he used to be, but he had his moments. I mean, you got to remember that this was a Bears. There it is, Derek. You have to remember that this is a Bears team that, for the most part, is just trying to limit you to about 5 yards per carry. If you can get 5 yards per carry on this Bears defense, they'll just keep giving it to you, right? They don't really, I don't want to say they don't care, but it's not on their priority list to take away every single yard you get, because eventually, just like we saw right there, eventually, even if you got 5 yards on the first down, you'll get 2 on second down, and that sets up a 3rd and 3 where the defense wants to live anyways. There were some plays by Angelo Blackson, there were some plays by Akeem Hicks, but I'd be lying to you if I said anybody in particular stood out, except I thought Nichols in particular, and maybe you'll just sort of see some of it in the background. I want to be a little faster on a lot of the running plays that don't matter as much. Not that they don't matter, there's just too many of them. They ran the ball like 35 times, right? But so Hicks was fine. Honestly, he wasn't the dominant player that I'm used to seeing, and Nichols got erased. Most of the time, if you double teamed Nichols, you could push him back to like there, right? You could push him, you could shove Nichols a good 4 or 5 yards backwards, and if you wanted to push him back on an arc, you could do just fine. Goldman played too, Alexander. He was hit and miss. Sometimes he got blown right off the ball. Other times, he was A-okay. But so, yeah, it was wasn't messy in the old school sense. It just wasn't good. Like, the Bears' run defense was good enough, obviously, but they basically just waited around for the Giants to make a mistake. And then here on the Giants' 6th offensive play of the game, they had the audacity to try to pass it again, right? I mean, it's 3rd and 2.5. You can obviously tell that the Bears are sitting here in, again, this is like a heavy mug because you've got everybody up on the line of scrimmage. Both inside linebackers are within, say, about 4 yards. Slim Jim, of course I do. But so you've got both linebackers mugged up on the line of scrimmage. You've got a wide front 4 right here, and you've got both CBs basically playing man coverage, right? And so the Bears are trying to defend that short yardage situation. But what really surprises me is the play call that the Giants tried to go with here, where they're going to have, again, it's Kenny Golladay, number 19, and he's going to cut inside on a post route that you'd think would be open, but credit to Desai here. He doesn't get much credit for that first forced fumble. This one, give Desai credit because, Artie Burns maintains a really beautiful discipline on what's supposed to be a natural pick play right here that's supposed to be open given where Gibson is. But check this out, right? So Glennon gets to the throw point, and it's not like Golladay isn't open. If he can throw the ball right here, Golladay can run through it, make a contested catch in space. The problem is that Once Artie Burns sees that that's where Glennon's trying to go with the ball, he recognizes that if Glennon tries to throw it over the top, he's going to throw it right into Tashaun Gipson. Guarding grass or not, Tashaun Gipson is the pass-off, right? This means that Burns doesn't have to stay on his backside. He can cut through because on a post route, as you can see here, he'll just jump in underneath, right? He makes a really, really nice play doing exactly that. Jumping underneath, trusting the throw to be over the top, or like trusting that if it's over the top, his safety will bail him out. And Artie Burns does a great job to to tip this ball at all and force fourth down. And hey, Tashaun Gipson makes an athletic play and hauls in an interception one-handed. Is it that Gipson was perfect, Marshall? Great to see you. No. Right? Is it that 38 made some crazy play? He didn't. If anything, guys, this is part of why I really don't love interceptions as a metric, because right now Tashaun Gipson has 2 interceptions, and I would tell you with a straight face that I think Eddie Jackson has been much, much more valuable in coverage. Not to mention, it's Artie here that actually makes the play, cutting underneath the throw and forcing the tipped ball. The tipped ball just happens to land in Gibson's hands. He makes a nice little play with it after the catch, and the Bears are once again in business, right? So one more look at it, because I think this is really cool, right? That pick play that they run right here sets up a beautiful situation for Artie, where because he's playing this trail coverage right here, right, and because he knows where the route's going, if the Giants wanted this to be successful, right, I would personally, I would personally at this stage, have wanted them to carve the route down? Adjust is what I'm looking for. Because with Burns pretty tight on him, if he cuts it straight across, it's a foot race and Burns probably loses, right? But because this play carries that post behind Burns, Burns can just flatten his own angle, jump in front, and make a play. You guys mentioned it. I mean, whether Burns is coming into his own or not, I don't know. I personally like Eddie Jackson, Slim Jim. I think that his contract makes it hard because he's paid to be an big impact player. And most of his big impact comes very quietly because people just don't really throw at him. I mean, I think you guys have really seen it since about week 9. Teams just don't throw at Eddie much. And it's not like they're having crazy success when they do. So the guy, or the stuff that he thinks, or that Eddie's getting pinned on right now, tends to be stuff like Kindle Vildor blowing a coverage and Eddie Jackson technically being a little closer than wherever Vildor is. But so, anyways, back to it. All this to say that Burns made a really nice play. The Giants are now 0 for 2 on pass dropbacks with 2 turnovers, and things are not going well, right? Like, this is great by the Bears, but Mike Glennon right now is so ruining the Giants' game plan, there's not much you could do about it. And the Bears did not play well. Let's talk about something that if you follow me on Twitter, you probably already saw this. We're going to go over it again. This is the second offensive play of the game, and the Bears are going to run a dagger-like right here, where this is Damiere Byrd. He's going to run a post. The post is probably going to grab the attention in a too-high setup of number 24 and the safety, who are then going to run with him. This opens up a pocket of space right here that, in theory, Cole Kmet, who's got a linebacker covering him, assuming this is a 2 or 4 high zone, right? And that linebacker is going to probably not have much of an angle. So, that's neat. And as far as like a third option, if neither of these two are open, you can throw this to the flat where they're going to have David Montgomery. But for the most part, if the defense plays this normally, right, they're going to take the deepest threat away, the post. They're going to leave that pocket of space, the dagger, and you're going to throw what is basically a deep stick, right? Well, that's not what the Giants give them. Because as you'll probably see, when Dalton, who's looking right where we want him to, right, it watches this play, the corner stays down. You can see Byrd leaking out, and the safety bites on it too. They expected this to some degree, but that leaves Damiere Byrd wide open. wide open for a touchdown. Dalton's not even getting really truly pressured yet. I mean, at this stage, you would consider him late because once Damiere Byrd hits the point where he's even with the safety or with the corner, he's leaving. He's going to be fine getting open. At this stage, Dalton would be throwing to Byrd late, but all he's got to do is just sort of pop the ball in the air and he'll be able to get it to the end zone. I don't want to over-assume Dalton's physical capabilities, but this is as wide open gets. Instead, Dalton runs himself into a sack. Byrd ends up looking at the sky, and the Bears turn what could have been a touchdown into a loss of about 4. I mean, it's about right here, where once you see him, he can step in and just throw the ball. It could be as lollipop gets. Nick Foles, throw to the L. Whatever you want it to be. Exactly, throw it to the E. But Dalton doesn't throw it. Had his opportunity there, and this is a split-second football game. I'm aware that it comes across that way, but I was howling with laughter that in this game that Fields wasn't able to play. Of course, the very first passing play is something that, can we call it what it looks like? This looks visually like a rookie mistake, right? Like flats covered, triple coverage on Cole Kmet, guy leaking wide out or right out into the end zone, and Jenkins wasn't injured, Spectre. He just had to give that start to Jason Peterson. But this looks like a rookie mistake as he then runs into a sack. This looks like Enzo, or this looks like what we used to get on to Trubisky about, right? And so, like, Byrd leaks straight into the end zone, isn't there, and ends up, you end up taking the sack. But yeah, exactly, right, Grant? But so, weird first play, to say the least. I mean, maybe that James, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if my honest guess, James, to give you an exact example of what I think, is that, believe it or not, I think Dalton's thrown this play so many times that he never thought in any world anybody would leave this open. Now, in my own personal film study of Dalton, I would tell you that I think that he's a bit of a pitch guesser, right? I don't think Dalton reads the field. That's more Nick Foles' game, so much as he takes a look pre-snap, guesses where he's going to go with the ball, and throws it on time to that pre-guessed area, right? That's part of why, Alexander, he throws so many potential interceptions, is because Dalton says before the play even starts, all right, I'm going here, or I'm going here, because there's no way that's going to be open. And then all of a sudden, there he is looking and saying, oh, shoot, he's wide open. Like, holy moly. And just sort of panics, like doesn't react in time, ends up missing a touchdown way down. But so, yeah, you get the idea. Like, yeah, exactly, John. He's a little more of a post-snap reader. By the way, all you members out there, first of all, thank you for your patronage. Second of all, you could check your emojis. It's simple, but I did throw a curl route or like a curl emoji in that hopefully we can get rolling today. Thank you, Alex. But so, yeah, exactly, Marcus. It's Madden Mobile out here. So it's second down, and because it's second down, you know that means that we've got to throw a quick bubble screen. So the Bears do. They end up getting 5 yards back and put themselves they put themselves at 3rd and 9. I mean, this is hilarious because this is obviously coming right off the interception, but the Bears offense has this opportunity to plant the dagger, so to speak. Jay, I haven't talked about it yet, but I mean, hey, good for Leno. He's not a Bear anymore. And I always felt like, probably going to still get flagged for this, I always felt like Leno was all right. Like, was he the power tackle that people want, or that people want Tevin Jenkins to be? No, but he looks like Borum playing on the left-hand side, and we like Borum, right? So here you go. So at this point, new poster. I don't know where you can get it, when you can get a T-shirt. But that's not a bad idea for like an emoji. I'm always looking for fun emojis that are channel related. But so, anyways, so another thing that's really interesting. This is honestly where I think Fields could really truly learn something from Dalton. Dalton played a really bad game today, right? Like, honestly, he did not play well. But you're going to see on this play that if there's one thing Dalton does really well that Fields, I think, struggles with a little bit, right? I would tell you that Fields wants to, Fields wants to make the play himself. Fields takes quarterbacking really personally, right? And Andy Dalton is not under any delusion that he's the best player on the team. And so most of the time when Andy panics, he just ditches it to David Montgomery, and that's a good decision. Like, the funny part about this play is that I would tell you that there's a hard throw that he could have made, frankly one that I would have expected Fields to attempt right here with Kmet, right? So normally on this play, what you're trying to do is you're trying to draw a linebacker up with you, right? Where Kmet's going to drop back or like on this slant, and when the linebacker goes with him, that opens up Darnell Mooney's slant really easily. You're going to have this guy trying to play on the inside. It's going to be hard for him. This is a great call against Too High. Well, what the Giants do instead is that they shift the linebackers over to where instead of going this way with Cole Kmet, they all just bite down. So nobody's open. Well, at least not immediately, right? The thing is that obviously when you look at this bite, you're going to recognize that means Cole's going to leak out the backside, and he's right there, right? If you wait a little bit, you can zip the ball to Cole Kmet. You probably have to tuck it under a safety. But if you played that ball, or like if you put that ball a little bit low, you could probably pick up a first down within this tiny pocket of space, especially for a guy like Fields with a mega fastball cannon. He's going to give it a try, right? Andy does not do that. He says, that read is cloudy, and I'm nervous about my arm trying to put that ball into space. I'm just going to dump it to the back. And as Akusai said earlier, at this point, Montgomery just does Montgomery things, right? There's a reason that sometimes, if you're a Packers fan, because I know you're probably still in here, atheist, there's a reason that you ditch it to Aaron Jones sometimes. I mean, you just never know. Montgomery takes on 3 tacklers and pushes himself forward another 3 yards and picks up the first down, right? I mean, like, it's one of the funniest parts about these games, and something I would be stunned just knowing roughly who Fields is if he's not learning at this point, that sometimes you check it down to one of the best players on your team on just a basic, like, could you buzz this ball? You could try. That's a very hard throw. Or you could just flick the ball to David Montgomery, and who's to say he'll ever go down? I mean, he's not only is he fun to watch, but then you get James Daniels hustling downfield. Him and Mustipher give a good hard shove. First down on a 3rd and 9. So all of a sudden the Bears are sitting on fresh downs. And it's not because of a good read. It's not because of it's not because Andy Dalton made some big play. Dalton basically just got out of the way. He said, I'm not going to do something silly here. Let me just go with where I know we can go. We'll pick up the yards we can get. Who knows how it'll be. Daniel, thanks so much for jumping in and joining. It's so funny the way that works. And exactly, atheist, you're preventing a negative play. Like, to talk about, again, the play that I think Fields might have done, like throwing this, it'd be dangerous, right? Because if at this stage you throw this ball and it's inaccurate, who's to say where it goes? If you throw it and the safety bites down and takes Cole Kmet's head off, now you got somebody hurt, right? You also have to throw it pretty much with perfect timing, because if you throw it at this frame, you're going to be late. But if you throw it at the frame that I was at last time, like you wind up, you're going to barely get that thing in. Instead, Dalton just does the easy thing, takes a slight little bump right here, but nothing bad, right? And Montgomery just grinds his way forward, is able to get the yards. Like you guys said, it's a team effort, but more than anything, it's just funny watching how sometimes the backup quarterbacks can teach you a lesson. And hey, if there's something that I would massively credit Aaron Rodgers for, honestly, Rodgers walks this unbelievable balance of being willing to just ditch the ball when he doesn't like what he sees, while also knowing when to extend a play because he knows he can get something downfield. That's a balance that I think is really hard to find. Not a lot of guys find it, right? Tom Brady, I think, has found it. Patrick Mahomes has only loosely found it because he extends a lot more plays than I think others should, but at the same time, I mean, Patrick Mahomes could be getting carried backwards and he'd still be able to throw the ball 45 yards, right? But so in Fields' case, there's a time and a place to just not take the L, but ditch the ball and figure out the rest later. I think he's learning it. I mean, he practiced this season literally hitting his checkdowns. He clearly placed an emphasis on it. It's just a matter of that being put into place. Also, every time we do a passing drop back, make sure you watch number 75. He's still not some ferocious run blocker, right? But 75 in particular, Larry Borom, was a really solid pass blocker today and kind of has been all season. The run blocking, there's still going to be some time to figure that out. And here's an example of a Bears run play that goes quite badly. I mean, this is one of those where the Bears just keep playing outside zone, and the longer that the Bears keep playing outside zone, the more that occasionally they're just going to get into trouble. So, for instance, the way that this would normally work is you've got 85 is going to work with 71, like Jason Peters. 65 Cody Whitehair is going to get to this level with Peters probably trying to take number 99 out at this stage. And then like Mustipher is going to take on 96 along with James Daniels, who's then going to hit him and bounce up. Very standard practices for these guys to try to basically tap the guy next to them and then bounce up. And then Borum's going to get over here, try to block him, right? But so at this point, those are the rules. The trouble being that they kind of get Whitehair into problem because as 99 kicks across right here, he ends up so late to get to 48 that 48 rolls right downhill and tackles Montgomery back in the backfield. I mean, it's not that the outside zone rules are easy to suss out or like super beatable. They're not flimsy. They're pretty basic. It's kind of like a gist when it comes to running. But so I will it just leads to some negative plays here and there because the Bears really do run it that often. Second play, you're going to see Dalton he's going to go through his read. I hate this route by Cole Kmet, by the way. Like, it looks as if they drop into basically a cover 3 kind of setup. And so you're going to see Cole Kmet try to shank the out route. It's not a great route. And so from there, they then have somebody going uphill. They've got, what is this? Allen Robinson running a curl. It's the first curl of the game. That they're going to just try to clear this defender out of the way. And if that's absolutely not there, Mooney's going to motion back in, kick out to the flat for a true check down. No word on Cohen, Slim Jim, and I think no news is bad news at this point. Just a thought, right? But so Kmet up on the top is at no point going to even almost pretend like he's running a post. So the CB figures it out and just immediately blankets him, which it happens. Also, this defender didn't at any point leave the zone. He's closed. You make the throw here. It's the right decision. It's not a bad thing necessarily. But yeah, it's fine. The Bears offense is honestly, I don't want to say it's easy to suss out, but they do so many of the same things with Allen Robinson. If there's one thing that I'll defend 12 on, because I think that his effort this year has been lackluster. I hate saying that, but it has been, right? It's that the Bears at this stage have limited Allen Robinson to a route tree that looks like pretty much that. That's it, right? I hear you, Alexander, on Bradbury, because you're right. But what really seems to be hurting Allen Robinson is that since he's not really running any corner routes, he's not really running any go routes, and he's not really running any fade routes, none of the corners think he will. If you watch the way 12 is playing, trying to use him as a possession receiver makes him look like he's never getting open because corners just don't believe he'll go for anything. I mean, there's a reason that he was able to get wide open, right? Again, on that slot fade against Pittsburgh. And it's because he's been running so many of these possession routes that they just got beat, right? What I'm trying to say is I'm not trying to give A-Rob, y'all are saying, I'll give A-Rob a pass on this. I'm saying that I think that the way the offense has been using him is unbelievably predictable. When you watch Darnell Mooney run a deep curl route, he will get open because the defense actually respects his ability to run deep at that point. Right now, when Robinson runs an outside curl route, nobody thinks he's going deep. I don't think it's an injury thing in this case. I think it's just that they don't ever run him on goes. And I don't know why, honestly. But So anyways, back to this route. This is just not a real winner's route by Kmet at this stage. Like, I'm not trying to destroy 85. I just want you guys to see all the film. But if I am looking at that as the first read, and Dalton sure was, I'd be a little bummed. Bradbury's a good corner, sure. But the route is so... at one point, he fences it in there and just slowly rounds it into an out. There's no sharp edge, so there's not really much for the corner to bite on the inside, especially when the inside route would have been open, right? I mean, you look at all the space that Kmet will have once Dalton takes the snap. If he runs a post, you're talking throw on the break and dot it, and you've got a potential contested catch, especially as that safety shades over towards that right-hand side. So there is stuff you could threaten, right, and then shank him on the out route. This is not a great one. But so, I mean, I'm sitting there the same way, A-Song, about, like, you'll hope that you would think, honestly, that the Bears would use more double moves, just given where they're at with, like, how often they run curls and so on and so forth. But, yeah, anyways, 3rd and 9. So, this play right here, not all of these are memorable. This is a good route by Kmet. Honestly, he immediately follows it up with a good route. We're going to start hustling up a little bit here in a second because I think the early plays really help tell the story of this game. But so, watch this one, right? Where at this point, Kmet is going to run forward, chop his feet, get his hands on his guy, get away with a slight tight end push-off, and actually create some separation. That is, simply put, a route Mark Andrews would run. Right? I think that's the way a lot of these top tight ends run routes. You want to try to get your hand on the guy as early as you can, as legally as you can, use your physicality and big body to create some separation, turn around, make a clutch catch, and immediately go down with it. Right? Like, in this case, I love the fact that Kmet takes a route that we've seen him kind of struggle on. Dalton actually places the ball really beautifully between two defenders, catches it, takes a bump, goes down. I'll take it. Like, that works just fine for me. We want to see more of that. Somebody mentioned, like, Jimmy Graham talking to Kmet about the route that he had a little while ago. I would absolutely love to see Kmet develop into, honestly, he doesn't even have to be a sharper route runner. You can just bully people. Mark Andrews is a perfect example of somebody who's not the world's sharpest route runner, but he plays like he's 8 feet tall and can push 400 and can, like, bench press 400 pounds at that point, right? And so I want to see Kmet develop a little bit of that nasty to the way that he plays his game. But so 4th down, the Bears are going to call what I have always heard referenced as what's called fast 4. So they're going to, that was a bad drawing. They're going to get a slap fade from Allen Robinson. They're going to get Damian Williams out here in the flat. They're going to have Jimmy Graham set a natural pick for Darnell Mooney coming up the backside. And, I think it's Mooney. Maybe Mooney comes up the front side. Like that, and then that with a natural pick up here. Slot fade. You can see you're just trying to basically jam 4 people into one pocket of yardage and see who the defense doesn't cover, right? Graham runs his route pretty much perfectly. You're going to see it is ultimately Mooney who outruns his guy. Where is this for Justin Fields? Believe it or not, he actually threw a touchdown on this play against San Francisco, my brain says. I don't know if that's true. But it's wide open. Quick dot to Mooney, goes down, makes the catch. 4th down, the Bears convert. Took too long, right? Like, why did it take them almost 8 plays to convert from the 20? You tell me, but it's good enough. It gets them up 14-0, right? This was just such a weird game because at every stage where you expected the Bears to play well, honestly, they didn't play that well. But then their offense would come back on the field, and it was just bizarre watching how bad the Giants looked. Like, nobody's saying that on any that they were definitely the worst play or like the worst team in the league today, especially with the Jaguars playing as badly as they did. Holy moly, they played as so badly, right? but they were really bad. I mean, the Glennon-led offense was so unwilling to pass, and when it was passing, so unbearably inefficient, and frankly, a total detriment to the offense, that when the Giants decided that they were just going to exclusively run the ball, it's not like I blame them. Here we'll go a couple more passes or plays, and I'll just let you guys watch, right? You're going to see some solid plays from Trevis Gipson. You're going to see some Khyiris Tonga magic. It's not that Tonga, here, number 95, and Gipson were like utter uber warriors or something, but you're going to see that 95 was hard to move. Eddie Jackson does a good job of tracking Saquon, or as he moves around. I mean, this one was fun. Tonga doesn't get moved basically at all on a double team, even though Angelo Blackson does. So you end up with a nice stop. It's cool to see the Bears' 7th round pick contributing like he has. Blackson normally doesn't seem to give up stuff like this, and that was a bit of a theme. But 67's not really able to get much movement on him, even though 90 gets pushed out of the way, and the Giants slam through for a little bit. But so, I mean, hang on. It's like Mac Jones throwing 3 passes. Yeah, it is. And new poster, I mean, he isn't open. He's not open at all. I really think that going back to Allen Robinson, the trouble is that normally Robinson makes just about every route look the same. Like, the Giants are obviously on offense, but the magic of Robinson's game is that he's able to stem an out, a corner, a go, and a slant, even an in the same way, right? Robinson does a very, very good job with both body control and footwork of not tricking the corner, but making the corner really play him and generating pretty much a step or a half step of separation, and only that much on just about any route. Now, and I wish I had an eraser, when you take that away and you make it to where he's stemming to an out, an in, or a slant, you don't have to cover as much. Like, you could just sit right here as a corner and wait for the first time he moves. Or you could even just sit right here, per se. And if he tries to go out on you, you follow him out. And if he tries to go up or in, you just sit right there and let him run into you, right? With Robinson, he needs access to all those routes, or he's just not fast enough to win anyways. And you see a little too much of that, if in my own opinion. But so the Bears at this stage just start run blitzing. They've been run on enough times. They're going to send Quan. They're going to send Tonga, doesn't get moved much. Gipson's very quick to get upfield right there. And they start to make a couple of run stops. But so, honestly, new poster, I personally think that they decided that Robinson was going to be their Travis Kelce, and no worries, I'll answer this. I think they decided Robinson was going to be their Travis Kelce and Mooney was going to be their Tyreek Hill, with the problem being that it's a lot easier for a tight end to run a whole bunch of the same routes, because the tight end in this case, for instance, right, the tight end can block most of the time. Robinson's not a good blocker, so you're obviously not going to use him in those roles, right? So since the tight end can just he could block, he could run an out route, he could run a post, he could run a true in. Honestly, the tight end could run up the seam, the tight end could run the corner, the tight end could come across and block. There's a lot of things that the tight end can naturally do that when you get somebody like Travis Kelce that can be anywhere, he's really hard to stop in very much the same way. But so I think a lot of it's coaching. It's not to say that Robinson is the same player that's the 1,400-yard receiver or even 1,200-yard receiver we know him to be. It's more to say that right now I think Robinson's not even on pace to out-receive Cole Kmet. I don't know if he'll get 400 yards, and I think that's a huge problem because at this stage, what they've basically started using, pretend that this was Robinson. It's third down, right? If this was the Bears, he's going to run one of two plays. He's going to run a curl right here, or he's going to run an in-breaker. That's based on this position, that's what he'd do. Robinson would never run downhill. Honestly, Robinson might run an out route here, but it's so tight to the sidelines that they'd almost 100% motion him into the slot so that then he could run an out route, or he could turn it into an option stop where he moves over, pushes up, options, and then turns around. Like, y'all will see that whatever route Robinson goes to run today, they just wait on him. Like, they're just sitting on it. You'll never see him run deep. You'll never see him do something that quote-unquote Goodwin or Mooney or Bird would do better, right? Like, it's bad. It's bad tape. But so anyways, third down. This one's fun. You can watch Graham right here in the nickel where he's going to get first look. And then you can also go ahead and watch Blackson on the interior. Both are fun. Watch Graham first because we got a great sack right here where Graham, out of the nickel slot, is just going to shut his man down. I think that stuff's beautiful. Like, he plays inside leverage. He's going to basically stop, like, or take away just about anything, right? So Graham's entire motivation is, if you run a slot fade on me, I'll live with it. But you're Mike Glennon, and I don't think you're going to do that, right? So at this point, like, Graham plays his leverage perfectly. You can see right here, if he wanted to go deep, he'd have him. But Graham doesn't get beat by the fake, stays on him enough that by the time he turns around, he held him off. Now watch Blackson. This is fun. If you guys love D-line, like I know you do, you're going to love a good hand slap, right? Where he just dispenses with 71's hands, and Blackson's all over him. 3 pass attempts, 2 sacks, 1 fumble, 1 interception. The Giants' passing game is not going well. Blackson's been a really nice signing for $3 million, by the way. Like, as a depth option, that's pretty good. The way that he plays normally against the run, even though he didn't play phenomenally, right? In this specific game, though nobody really did. But this kind of hand slap is fun to watch. Like, just a quick dispense, very, very old school Akeem Hicks. And by old school, I mean 2018. That's the stuff that he did all the time at like 300 pounds. But yeah, like, fun. Bears get the ball back. And that's exactly why the Bears are going to do the only thing that you would really think that they would do, truth be told. Like, think about it. You know it's coming. They're going to get nothing. Quick flag comes out. But so, how old is Blackson? You know, I'm not 100% sure. Harrison Reinstein, why have we been playing Vildor over him? Your guess is as good as mine. Start of the year, it made sense. Start of the year, Graham didn't know the defense. And I respect that. NFL defenses are pretty complicated, right? It's not as if they're extremely complicated, but they can be pretty complicated. And so you want to make sure that somebody doesn't blow coverages. I'm looking at you, number 22. But by the back half, by now, I don't know. I don't know why he had the game that he had, where he had 3 pass breakups against, and honestly played great in the run game, against Minnesota, and now he's just not playing anymore. Beats me. Bears. Why is Jason Peters starting, right? Like, why is Peters starting? Why isn't Newsome playing? Like, at this stage of the game, why are these guys not playing? I will say your guess is as good as mine. I'm really being pretty tongue-in-cheek. But so, the Bears are going to line up right here. They've got 3 wide receivers. If you look at all this space, to all you guys that are talking about Madden Mobile, can we agree that with nobody covering the like your inside receiver, Jakeem Grant, this is a perfect opportunity for an audible of some kind? Like, if I was looking at the formation and I had all the authority in the world, this is a great opportunity for a drop back quick pass. I don't really care if it's a bubble screen, which you could do, right? I don't really care. But if this was me, this is an easy audible call because the Giants have loaded 5 in the box, or like they've loaded 5 on the down, or like 5 on the line, 8 in the box total. It's bizarre to me that they went through with this run because the Bears' offensive line hits all their blocks. Like, you get a nice double team there. You've got these 2 taking him out of the play. It'll be easier to see on the back end, but there's just too many bodies. Like, they run outside zone to the left. They run it against an 8-man box with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blockers. As you know, that means that we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and these two are just free at this point. And surprise, surprise, one of them makes the play as they just rocket through. 99 is able to beat Jason Peters, and all it takes is one for one of the backside free rushers to drag Montgomery down for a loss of 2. Why don't the Bears kill the passing plays? I really won't know. Like, they seem like they only kill the running plays, which I can respect at some points, but especially once you're looking at a box as loaded as this one, like, you must hate your wide receivers, or you're really stuck on a plan if you're not going to get off that call. I don't know. I struggle to explain some of this stuff. It's not as simple as pressing X and pressing Y in Madden. We're all aware of that, but basic bubble audible calls and stuff like that used to be a piece of the offense, right? It used to be as simple as somebody could hold a couple fingers up and the Bears would shift to a bubble screen, right? If they didn't like the look that they got, but that's not how these Bears roll. Right? I'm with you, Derek. It probably is the flip side of Dalton not trying to be a hero, though I would have hoped that he would just be a little bit more of a manager, right? And then the Bears run, and I can't believe I'm saying this because you guys have watched me dialogue on a lot of Bears plays. I don't understand this play call. This next play call blows me away. So what the Bears do is they have Montgomery smoke. I've always heard it as a smoke route, so it's just they turn around, right? Grant smokes. Inside receiver, curl. Slot receiver, curl. Allen Robinson, slick curl. This is the play call. I don't know what defense they thought they were getting. I don't know why they mirrored it. Like, why? You can call this concept on one side. Why would you call it on the other one? Right? Like, if this just means that the quarterback has truly nowhere to go when the linebacker just sits in front, and maybe, I mean, honestly, I think the look would be to just stuff it to Allen Robinson at this point. It's not even that he's crazy open. He's just opener than Marquise Goodwin, and Dave Montgomery basically didn't run a route, right? But this is one of those where when Dalton rolled out of the pocket, I felt legitimately bad for him. Because it's like Marcos, it's the weird part to me isn't that curl routes. It's not like curl routes are from Satan, right? The Bears have made it look that way, but you can't make a full field read like off of curls that all happen at the same time. It's a pick a side read, and even in that, Dalton read it just this way. The Giants basically locked down the left side of the field. Like you're saying, on the left, Marcos, the receiver ends up slightly opener. You got to remember that if he throws this ball, you're pretty much throwing it straight into Jalen Smith's path, right? But the weird part to me, because Bob, simple curls like this are not, to me anyways, as big of an issue as the fact that I don't really get why these guys are smoking at this point. Like, you could have Montgomery at this stage run inside and just catch something over the middle. Like, you mean all the way to the left. Like, you're going to have Dalton, just to make sure we're all on the same page, because sometimes I do think people, will think that this is what a quarterback should do, that he should go 1, not there, 2, not there, 3, not there, reset his feet, 4, not there, 5, yes, throw to 5, right? Like, since he doesn't have, all 22 vision, he's basically got to come up with not his own order, but he's probably going to split the field in half. And Robinson's going to be probably the second read on both. But, yeah, I mean, I would look at this play. The weird part to me really is the idea that, okay, so you call this and you go and you get cover 2. Cover 2 is going to shut this down because you get somebody in the middle, you get somebody right there, right? And if you've got a different concept on the backside, like a slant, obviously not like a go. I don't need to think about it too hard, right? But since they're mirroring it, the play is just over at this stage. Once Dalton sees what he doesn't like, you're going to see him roll because there's nothing on the backside and he knows it, right? Since there's nothing there, the front side, there's nothing there on the backside, and they're all out of time anyways. So you end up just having to ditch the ball. I just don't really know why it's designed this way. It feels, I don't want to say lazy, but it kind of feels too easy, in my opinion. You can even see on this that Dalton's first read isn't even the hook back there. He's just watching the safety for Allen Robinson. Not a safety, a linebacker. I'm a little surprised he doesn't just force the ball in, but bleh. Yeah, honestly, Derek, it wouldn't surprise me if Foles calling all those audibles is part of why Nagy doesn't like him, because he doesn't execute the offense the same way. But that's a different story, I guess. So at this stage, they just run a simple dual up and out. It's fine, right? But it's one thing that did surprise me a little bit is Robinson runs a curl route and the dig's wide open. I mean, at least I feel like it's more open, because what the Bears are running on this play is let me show this because it's gonna make more sense. The Bears are running a half vert set. It looks more like that, right? Where you're gonna have one person go really deep, one person go off to the side, because you're trying to beat quarters, right? Trying to set up for cover 2 and potentially cover 4, right? Maybe 6 while you're at it. But this is, I don't want to say a standard quarters beater, but it's one way to attack quarters. The weird part to me is that Allen Robinson's going to run a dig or a curl, and I've almost always seen it run as a dig, with the reasoning being that if this safety fades up and this safety fades up, or if you run this dig, you can grab this safety's attention so that the deep post, the really deep post, is open. Or at least it's in one-on-one coverage where you could just put the ball out, right? Because Robinson doesn't run that, though, the Bears end up where you drew the attention that you would have anticipated. You might have some space if you threw, crazy on time, right? You could bend the route back and throw into this pocket if he was running a dig, but instead, one corner has just popped back here and covered up everything except for Montgomery, right? And the post right here, it's covered. That's fine. You end up with the safety dropping back anyways. But why Robinson's not coming in right here really blows my mind, because I don't get why it is that the Bears run so many curls. There are a lot of these routes that even in the Nagy playbook, they do more than this, right? They move more. The idea that everything has to end in stopping is so weird to me. I don't understand in this specific play why it is that you've got Mooney flying, you've got Bird flying, but Robinson, he's just got to stop, I'm just complaining at this point. Probably belaboring it a little bit, but we really have so many stop routes. So even though the Bears are up 14-0, immediately 3rd and 11 becomes, 4th and 8, and we're gonna punt. So the game wasn't bad. If anything, it was dominant for Chicago for a lot of reasons. I mean, the Giants helped them out a lot, but there were enough of these Bears moments that was just, I don't know. I mean, like you're saying, ready to ball. Let the skill players run away from the defense. Put it this way. I'm sure you guys have seen this tweet. I'll pull it up. It's in my bookmarks. So let's see. Because I think it's a really, really interesting statistic, right? Where at this stage, I think it was, 12-21. So just a couple of weeks ago, right? They are PFF. You don't have to like them. Right, let's call this a directional test. Tracked the highest percentage of wide receiver routes where the player was deemed to be open, and dead last in the NFL is the Bears. So I don't know why it is that for some reason the Bears' ideology is as flawed as it is, but I don't actually blame Mooney. I don't necessarily blame Bird, Goodwin, Robinson so much as the scheme has to be a part of this, because you would expect them, even with bad wide receivers, to be around maybe 28th or something like that. But man, yeah, I mean, Because honestly, new poster, I'll tell you with a straight face, that if you watch the Packers offense, there's nothing but fun there. Like really, there's nothing but fun in the Packers offense. They're so good at getting Devontae open. They're so good at creating like mismatches for their guys. And hey, for as much as we like Pat O'Donnell on this show, not the best punt in the world, but yeah, I mean they do a great job in Green Bay. But they get back to it. They run the ball more. Surprise. And I'm telling you, the Giants were not bad on the ground. We like to think that way because you can't run the you can't run exclusively and win a game. The Bears did not, or like the Giants did not. But they did make key blocks pretty much all over the field. Like right here, it's going to be Hicks that just gets doubled, and he's pushed out of the way. They cut a wide receiver across the field. The wide receiver breaks loose and blocks, 55 right there. They put up 8 yards. I mean, they're solid little plays consistently, right? And so they run the ball a little bit more. I'll just play these, and we'll go from there. Whether it's drinking some water, like you'll see it. Because I want you guys to breathe in all these run plays back to back that I had to watch. And some of them, like you saw here, they're very outside zoney, right? I mean, let me see right here where you're going to see everybody just shift over to the right with, I think it's this fullback cutting straight across to get a backside block. I mean, it's a thing of beauty. Like, watch the way that the Giants execute this, where Hicks bites on a rollback right here. Exactly, Daniel. It was consistent until they needed to pass. But the Giants did a great job of generating holes for their offense. That's another first down. Like, I came away surprisingly impressed, not with Joe Judge's coaching for reasons we'll get to later. But I did come away legitimately impressed with the way that they run, or with the way that their offensive line performs. Because all I've heard about is how bad a lot of the Giants' offensive line has been. And right here, we've got Hicks beasting a little bit, right? You've got number 96 right here. Good old Akeem is going to slap 76 across from him, make a play on the guy in front of him. Nice little Goldman moment right there while you get it. Goldman comes through on a big one right here. Number 91 in the middle. We want to just, move through these fairly quickly. But Goldman's going to shed, cut right through, make a big tackle. Daniel, they just wanted to run. I mean, 3rd and 7 at one point. They line up in the jumbo and run it. I wish I was kidding. The Giants weren't even pretending they were going to throw, which you have to wonder whether there was part of that got to Glennon. Not that matters. And then, I don't know how you guys felt, but this was one of the coldest moments in the game where Mike Glennon denies the Quinn record early on, right? Quinn blasts through on a protection call that baffles me to this moment, where they wanted the center to pop out and block Quinn. Other teams have tried this. They almost always take the sack. Quinn wraps him up. He's got the record in hand. 18. He's going to be the sack leader, and he pops it out to the running back, who doesn't pick up the first down, but they avoid the sack. Like, this was so funny, in my opinion, where you're going to see Quinn get left unblocked. They really want the center to get out to make this. This is crazy to me. Like, I saw New Orleans at one point try this with Teddy Bridgewater. Surprise, it was a sack too. Quinn bursts straight through, gets his hands on Glennon. Glennon, with maybe the best play of his life, kicks the ball out to the back. And Deion Bush, with a really nice play himself, gets downhill, makes the tackle, forces a punt. But actually, I don't know if 94 was like, no, I can't believe it. I don't know if he's like tracked the record. He had to kind of know. But yeah, I mean, they take it away. And I don't think everybody was laughing, but I know I was sitting there like, no, it doesn't get easier than that. But so nice play by Glennon, all things told. Cool God, you asked about whether we should like keep Goldman or let him go. I think he's getting paid too much to keep around. The Bears, he's really one of the only sources of cap relief that the Bears have. They're locked in on Cody Whitehair. They're locked in on Eddie Jackson. They're locked in, not on David, but so like they don't have enough guys, in my opinion. They don't have enough guys that they can cut that you would keep like Dalton, or where did that come from? Goldman. And so I think you let him go. I don't know if I don't know if he's going to get any better going forward. He's fine as it is, but when he and Angelo Blackson are basically competing head to head for exactly the same role, I'll take the guy who's cheaper and frankly has made more plays. Like that's my 2 cents. Is it's an easy cut decision for the Bears, especially if you can replace him with like talent. I mean, you've got Mario Edwards, you've got Angelo Blackson, you've got Kairos Tonga. It's not perfect, right? But like you're saying, Derek, I mean, he's the main source of cap relief in terms of cut. I think that you can definitely push a whole bunch of money into the future, whether it's Max or, hey, now Quinn's. Like, you could push the Quinn money in the future if you didn't want to trade him. But like you're saying, New Poster, they do need somebody that's going to replace Hicks one of these days, but I don't know if they're finding that immediately. Anyways, next drive right here, the Bears actually have, oh no, this is not a good drive. The Bears call their play action, one of their two. You guys have definitely seen this, right? Where they're going to have inside receiver do that. Mooney comes across, rolls out to the flat, rolls up on a wheel, right? And then they're going to have the receiver, the tight end, come across the formation into the flat, while Goodwin comes across the formation into not the flat, but kind of. It's not a great play design, right? Normally they do this rollout off of an under center formation. They do it from shotgun here. The main reason I don't like it is because with Kmet on this side and also Goodwin on this side, they basically get to their places at the same time. And I mean, it makes it easy on the defense, doesn't it? So instead of potentially like a dig or something like that, where you'd have Kmet in the flat and a dig up there that could take advantage of any space that the defense leaves, you just end up with Goodwin and Kmet in functionally the same place. It's not like it's bad play by Dalton. He makes enough bad plays. This isn't one of them. But these are those frustrating moments with the Bears offense where you're like, and nobody was open. Where right now, I mean, we're seeing a whole bunch of moments throughout this Bears season where Fields has had to make plays with his legs or basically there's nothing there for the offense. This is kind of frustrating stuff that when you watch it with Dalton, it's even more obvious because when Dalton scrambles 5 times a game, why? Right? But yeah. Anyway, so the Bears are going to try duo after that. It's called duo for a reason. It's just 2 double teams up front, right? Where you're going to get, you're literally just going to try to have Whitehair and Mustipher pair up there, Borum and Daniels pair up there, and just push everybody, right? But so, Rick, why does everybody run left, but Montgomery runs right? I think it's because he sees Jalen Smith in that spot, and he sees all this space over here, so he's going to go try to take it. But then he kind of spins into some other people. It's not the greatest run in the world. But duo is normally a short yardage call for a reason. They call it on 1st and 10. Really good teams can get away with it. The Bears are not a really good team. And that brings us to 3rd down, where Dalton's going to throw what should be a pick. You guys can watch the play first, and then we'll go over quickly what happens. But so Dalton releases the ball. Honestly, he releases it on time. And then, like, the safety comes over, makes a really nice play on it. Now, what went wrong? Right? So the Giants are going to roll into a single high safety, right? So with that in mind, you would hope that Darnell Mooney's slot fade is open, and technically it's the correct choice, right? Dalton, when he takes this ball, throws it right on time, too. Like, he's even, you throw it, it's great. So why does the play not work? Well, I actually don't think it's that the throw is bad. Right? The problem is when people talk about moving the safety, you can see here Dalton doesn't do that. If anything, Dalton kind of gives it away, right? Dalton has one job at this from this point on in the play, right? Where that's funny, New Buster. I love that. But so At this stage, all Dalton's got to do is pull 29 out of position. If he's thinking of throwing that route, he's got to, whether it's look right, like this is exactly why you see a whole bunch of quarterbacks. They will put their eyes this way almost aimlessly, or they'll put their eyes downfield like that or something, and then they'll just hit the back of their drop and suddenly be throwing to that right side, right? Instead, like, I'm with you, Grant. There is nothing to draw that right side attention. I mean, technically, I guess you could think maybe that route is, but Dalton's already staring it down. And so as soon as he does, the safety's got open hips. He's sitting on the hash. There aren't many NFL safeties that can't break on this ball, right? By the time, even though it's schematically, theoretically, like let me draw the zone, right? Since theoretically, have a great one, Atheist. Catch you later. Since theoretically he's in single high, you're doing the right thing. But I like this this circle I've drawn right here because it kind of shows the edges of where the safety might be. And as he starts drifting over to that right hand side, he's basically saying, "Come on, throw it. Come on, throw it. Come on, throw it." And he loads as Dalton loads. I am really surprised that at this point he doesn't come down at the pick. Safety does a great job. Like this is all that stuff you're wanting Eddie Jackson to do, right? Just spade to spade, right? But I don't know, Derek. Maybe I know it's a joke, but it almost comes across that way. Safety looks like they get both hands on it. Heck of a play by the Giants defense. Like this isn't a pass deflection. That was an interception, or at least it could have been. Because I think sometimes people focus a little too much on something gets deflected and they go, "Oh, that was almost intercepted." But in that case, no, that was just almost an interception. And so then from there, let's see. This drive's pretty boring, truth be told. Like, I don't want to short you guys some film, but it is 10:47 in Central Time, and you just see a lot of this. Like, seriously, for a team that you remember as pretty much only running the ball, the Bears' defensive line did not do a whole lot of stopping them. Now, part of that's because the Giants did a really good job of flooding gaps and, honestly, a lot of great power running. Like, this play is a perfect example of... I don't know, Daniel. Most of the time when you're in your own territory, I don't think anybody really questions the fake. But so... like maybe they could have, but most people just don't do it. Like if you watch this, the way that you get this space as a Giant, or like as the Giants off the Wildcat no less, is really cool. That you get both these guys blocking down. Hunt basically doesn't have a chance. Then you get the fullback. The fullback handles Trevis Gibson. 68 comes through, clears out Roquan, and all of a sudden you've got yourself a hole with guys at the second level. They did a lot of really beautiful combo blocking. I mean, if they had a passing game, this might have been a game. And the Bears are fine with that. Right? Like you'll even see on plays like this that the Bears are just sort of sitting back and waiting around for the Giants to make a mistake like that, right? And they pick up a first down there, sure. But the Bears defense doesn't really care if you run on them. But man, I mean, the Giants, credit to them, their blockers were on it. They really tried. I mean, it's silly to say, right? Oh, they tried. What are you doing, Robert? You giving out a participation trophy? That's not the point. For a team that ran the ball as often as they did, I'm just surprised they picked up as many first downs as they did, given that if you asked this Bears offense to exclusively run it, I mean, you get like 3 first downs a game. And, probably more than that. Maybe. I can't tell sometimes. The Bears' run game is thin. It's a good idea because it's like one play over and over that the guys can execute. It's extremely O-line friendly, right? But, yeah. Oh, man, that'd be awesome, Ace. I think this will be a fun one, right? Because you've got Justin Fields going up against... it's still Sean Mannion, right? Like, it's still a bad Vikings team, which is great. I would love to see Fields against some truly bad teams for fun. Like popcorn, eye candy. We've seen him in some tough games, right? The Pittsburgh game, the San Fran game, the Buccaneers game, like the Green Bay game. I mean, there are plenty of moments that we've seen Fields in the crucible. Is Cousins gonna play? Oh man, bummer. I thought there was a shot that we'd get him like just Mannion, but so instead we'll get the guy who threw 88 yards and won by 2 scores sometimes. But so. I think we've got this one coming up because the Bears basically just gave up a bunch of yards on the ground right here. Eddie made a bunch of really proper tackles, Grant, and you're about to see. We're about to get to Saquon's basically best play of the game. Right there, Sam Hunt has a nice little arm tackle. And then right here, check this out. Eddie Jackson's going to time up the snap count, I mean, perfectly. Like, watch this. He's the first one off. As he walks up, nails it, he's straight through the gap. And the fact that Saquon doesn't get tackled there is practically miraculous. Like, Jackson's basically able to blow this play up from jump. And it's not a loss of 3, but it is a gain of 1 on 2nd and 9, which is not great, right? But so Jackson bursts through with a really, really, really nice play. You're excited to see that. New poster, I don't want to make it sound like I don't want to see Fields play against competition. Like, sure. But I don't know. Hopefully he plays well against the Vikings. He certainly seemed to last week and went a lot of ways around. But oh, interesting. Grant, are you saying Eddie? Like that he's more involved? Gibson does a nice job rally tackling there, by the way. But yeah, I mean, like you're saying, I'm obviously talking out of both sides of my mouth at this point. But Bob, I'm with you. I think the problem comes with the pay, right? Where Eddie's being paid $15 million. Teams aren't really throwing at him. Like, he's locking down his coverage assignments. And the problem becomes, in my honest opinion, how much do you pay a safety and what do you pay a safety for, right? Because with the corner, you can just, what's the word? With a cornerback, you can pay them $18 million, put them on the other team's best receiver, and expect them to make an impact because they'll be covering the other team's best receiver. With a safety, you can then bracket the Calvin Ridleys, you can bracket the Darren Wallers like they did, right? You can bracket a whole bunch of people, but then there you are, quote unquote, not doing anything. I feel like it's tough, right? But so I'm with you, Grant, that I think that now that they bump him all over the place, he is one of, I think, the Bears' most versatile defensive pieces, which is nice. But yeah, I'm with you, Reddy. And it's funny because I wouldn't be surprised, as somebody go look this up now that you mention it. But the more I think about it, like if you're looking to limit explosives, the Bears, when's the last time they gave up an explosive pass? Like, and thinking explosive, like way over the top on the safety, right? Like they make a lot of, or I'm not seeing this Bears defense give up a ton of those like bubble burster moments, right? The Bears, by the way, put up together a nice drive. This is one of the funner drives that they've had basically all season. Right here, they call quarters super simplistic, right? Because the Giants have been calling so much quarters, which again looks like this. Basically, all the safeties dropping back. You're going to see Cole Kmet come across on like a deep dig with then David Montgomery popping out underneath, which works really well. They might actually come out this way, which works great because it depends on whether the linebackers sink or take David. So because of this, since they sunk to take Cole Kmet, the easy read is to just give it to Montgomery, let him do what he does. He picks up 5 yards. It's easy, right? But so, oh yeah, mostly Bears fans for sure. But so the nice thing about a lot of this, yeah, I think the Metcalf TD, that would probably be the explosive play that last comes to mind at Kusai. Like, I'm thinking blown top equals or plus touchdown, so on and so forth. And then Montgomery's going to just grind his way down. Like, this was a fun run on his part. I love trap stuff because instead of seeing everybody running outside zone, you're going to see, I think, Daniels comes over this way with Mustafa and Whitehair coming across. So you get a little bit of the motion that the Giants are running, and the Bears are able to generate some really solid movement off of it. I think trap runs are great. They mix really, really well with teams like the Bears that run the same basic blocking concept over and over and over and over. If anything, I'm surprised that they don't run a little more trap and just take the losses where they get them. Here's a nice little pin and pull run. Look at Montgomery being patient. This one's fun, honestly, where you're going to see, I think it's Jesse James and Cole Kmet are going to hit big blocks right here, where Kmet and Jesse James are going to work their end. Credit to 85 for this. I thought he did a really good job. Mustafer and 18 both make solid blocks as well, with, I think it's Borum who hits that guy, like Daniels who hits him, and Montgomery. Honestly, if Daniels had blown up Jalen Smith, go. Like, Montgomery's gone. Instead, he gives Jalen Smith a hard bump, and that's fine. Still 7 yards. But it's not like the Bears were doing anything truly nuts, right? Where then the Bears are going to run Seattle. That's the only way I've ever heard this play described, which looks like this. It's similar to that play action corner that they always do. And I think Dalton would have thrown this because Mooney's open right there, right? Like he comes through. Dalton would have thrown this. He ends up with the defensive lineman right in his face. And so he says, you know what? I'm going to become the Justin Fields, and tries. But so funny to see the veteran quarterback making, look, they're not rookie mistakes, but if this was Justin Fields, somebody would say, guy's got to throw it, right? Instead, he's Andy Dalton. He's supposed to throw it. He doesn't, partially because of pressure in his face, which the pressure came from, it might be Whitehair. I need to look again real fast. Let's see here. Probably would have been a hold. Oh, there it is. Like, Borum lets his guy go off of play action right there. Dalton's not able to avoid him. You get the idea. Yeah, Shane. I don't know about that. That whole, like, move Borum to guard thing, I'm going to tell you right now, Larry Borum doesn't project well to guard at all. Like, Larry Borum, look, I don't want to say he's just not the world's most physical player, okay? And that works fine on the edge, where mostly you've just got to be, to use an endearing term a lot of Bears fans have heard, a speed bump, right? You've just got to slow somebody down for the most part. It's great when you get the Jason Peterses. It's even better when you get the Tevin Jenkinses. Like, what we hope is a beastly tackle that goes out and enforces his will. But as far as, like, what you need at left tackle or right tackle, you need somebody that can pass protect and get in the way. And Borum can do that. At guard, you want a little more power. You want a little more juice, right? And I don't think Borum's got that just physicality that you'd be looking for at guard. So Olin's suggestion to bump him inside really throws me off. I don't know quite how to respond to that, because I don't think that would help the Bears, to be very direct. But yeah, like at this point, I thought Borum does a good job on this block. It's a simple one, but like 3rd and say 3 right here, Borum just jumps forward. I don't think he holds this guy. It's right there on the line, but it's a solid block. Marcos, I think it depends. Mustafer, so everybody's saying drop Mustafer. I would say bench Mustafer. Mustafer's a solid backup lineman. Now, granted, I don't actually know whether if, like, there's a lot of debate I see on the internet about should you keep backup centers. Do you need a backup center, or do you want a guard that can play center like Whitehair, right? You guys make the call, but he's one of like 3 it's exclusive rights free agents that the Bears have, so he would come back cheap. I just don't think he should be the starter. Like, Mustafer to me is a pretty low ceiling. Like, I would rather, whether it's Ryan Jensen, whether it's drafting somebody, take a shot at a better center. Totally, dude. What's going on? Great to be back. But there's a lot that you could do there. Anyways, the Bears here hit the funnest play of the game, and I mean that quite seriously, where you're going to get the flea flicker. Bears throw it. They get Damiere Byrd wide open. Flea flicker was fun, right? But so, like, I love the fact that for some reason they must have just guessed that they'd drop into quarters, because they run 2 routes on this play, and just 2. Damiere Byrd is so open it hurts against a defensive lineman. Dalton lays a really nice little throw, like really, really solid, drapes it right over a defensive lineman, and the Bears pick up 20 yards. I think the flea flickers are always funny. I think it's even funnier when they don't work. I hate saying that. But yeah, like, it wouldn't surprise me, new poster, if you're exactly right on Olin and Mustafer, that it's just like center backing a center, right? I feel like you probably alienate a lot of people if you're just mean to people that play the same position. But yeah, that's how it goes. So we were talking earlier about Allen Robinson's struggles to get open. So he's obviously an X receiver, right, out here. He's going to run a curl, and I want you to just take a look at what the corner does, right? They're going to run an in-out play where Kmet right here, also running a curl, is going to be number one, with Robinson's curl being, if you don't like what you see, don't even look, just throw straight to the 2. And it's going to get knocked away. I mean, you're going to see Kmet right here, like, they don't take the bait. And so Dalton just sets, throws, and Bradbury didn't take the bait either, is able to knock the ball away. Like, drink this one in, because this one hurts to me, that you're not even going to see him take a step back, you know? He just waits for the Bears to throw this ball, breaks on it. It's a great play by the corner. Like, really great play. Yes, credit to the defender. But also, the fact that A-Rob doesn't ever run deep absolutely draws this kind of stuff. Like, the Bears run way too many of these curls without any double moves to complement them. No kidding, BG. I'm surprised we don't either. Herbert does a great job getting skinny. This is a funny one. We'll speed up. I'll start kind of just lightning rounding some plays here in a little bit because there's a lot of fun and memorable ones to go over. But check this out. Like, somehow you're going to see Herbert squeeze between these two guys where, like, he just gets so skinny, keeps those legs moving, and drives forward. The fact that he and Montgomery play the same position is a real bummer because you're both good. And then here's going to be Allen Robinson trying to run an option route, and it does not work. Andy Dalton, once again, tries to become Justin Fields. That does not happen. But, like, watch Robinson on this motion route where you're going to see him try here, number 12. He gets, nothing. Corner's just waiting on him. He tries to fake anything out. It's not there. Like, I don't necessarily look at this thinking, oh, it's Allen Robinson's fault that he can't generate any separation when his assignment is curl back in with two guys hitting fades over the top. This corner just doesn't think he's going deep on third down. And why would he? For years, he's been the Bears' third down safety valve, right? Like, for years, he's been the go-to guy on anything. I think normally Robinson's trying to seam this up to break out right there into the space, but he doesn't have the ability to do it. What I personally do, BG, is I take a look at the way the receiver runs the route. Like, right there, you can see that he curled it back. Most of the time, the receivers that do that have the green light to do so, and the quarterback's waiting to see where they go. And so a lot of times it's just, especially on third downs, it can be a common way to try to say, hey, we don't want to call a play that's intrinsically flawed. So if you see a place you can go that'll get yourself open, you're the guy on this one. So just do whatever you want, mostly. And the quarterback will just wait and see. So it's like a simultaneous read, basically. But so big loses. Fields, or like Dalton runs a scramble that I swear I've seen Mitch run before. I think it was against Detroit on Thanksgiving at one point. Third down, ends up 4th and 1. It's not to say it's especially bad. It was just funny to see to see like the ghost of Mitch Trubisky's scramble right there. And then they go for it. They just stuff it, right? Like, every once in a while, the Bears do something smart on offense. This was one of those where they just hand it to Montgomery, jam it up the middle. He goes out and gets the yard, right? Solid. Nothing specific, nothing fancy, just Whitehair and Peters hitting their blocks, and Mustipher not losing that badly. And that's about it, right? But so we will... Oh, yeah, this one was rough. So the Bears call a really nice crossing pattern in the red zone. They get Goodwin, wide open, right? Tons of space, tons of room to throw into, and then fires it, and the throw's too late, right? If we want to talk Dalton, which we can, right? We'll talk a little bit, or we'll talk a little here. Dalton really struggled. Like, this is one of those plays where when your guy has not just one, but probably 2 steps on him, lay that ball out there, let him run under it, and if you gotta stop for it, sure, but a lot of people I remember during the game called this a drop. That is a rough underthrow. Like, watching this, whether it's Fields, whether it's Foles, you get a receiver that open in the end zone, as rare an occurrence as this is for the Bears, you've got to not let the defender back in the play. That's exactly what Dalton's throw does, and it's now 2nd and 10. This play, they run the ball. They don't get a ton, right? They're going to go Wildcat. Actually, I remember they get more than I think they did, honestly. But so, Rick, I don't have any idea. Like, you're asking why Foles isn't playing? I don't know. Truly. Like, he's the one who's under contract for next year. Foles is. He's the one who, if you wanted to try to trade him, you'd need to get some value out of him, right? But, yeah, I mean, it's... I don't get why Foles won the game and then immediately got benched. But so, it's not like it matters. Then the Bears, let me see here. So, it's 3rd down, and the Bears are going to run mesh. And this one's bad too. So, because they're running mesh, if you've never seen it before, I'm going to be pretty imprecise with who's where. But Robinson's going to run up, kind of like they're running fast 4, right? And then Goodwin here is going to, because I think it's Goodwin, is going to run a curl. What you're trying to read is this mesh point. Basically, if the Bears are able to draw a defender this way, or if this guy leaks out without anybody defending, you obviously throw that way on the mesh. If this guy leaks out without anybody on him, you obviously throw here. If the C's part, you throw this button hook over the top that covers the middle. And Dalton's just so late that it doesn't matter. Right here, the button hook's probably the best route. Now, nothing's really open. The openest thing would probably be David Montgomery. You just jet the ball to him, hope that he breaks a tackle from 22, always possible, and then just walks into the end zone. But, Grant, that's hilarious. I hadn't thought about it that way. But a lot of people that I've talked to hate running mesh in the red zone, and a lot of it's just because of bodies, right? It's hard to fool anybody or really get anybody running one way or another when you got so many people stuffed into one tiny space. The trouble is, and I'm the one with the clicker here, Goodwin's probably your best bet, and Dalton thinks about it, hesitates, and throws what should be an interception. I mean, we can watch this from the back end, and it'll really look like I would see it anyways, where he reads the mesh out, and right there you would hope he's already throwing, right? He sees Goodwin coming. He's got to throw it soon so that 51 doesn't get in the way, right? Instead, he lets 51, or he tries to move 51 with his eyes, I think, and get back to Goodwin, who's already got his hands in the air, and by the time he throws it, I mean, oof, right? Like, that is an interception and a half. Like, you go back to this, it doesn't take a clicker to realize that you can't throw this so late in the end zone. This looks like a rookie mistake. Like, this looks to me like this would be the rookie. Like, this would have been Mac Jones or something like that, right? Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, getting to mesh really late, trying to jam the ball in there, and the Giants defender jumping right in front of it. Like, Rick, this one is wild to me. Not because to call this a near pick is to be unfair to how bad a decision it is. And the play design's not that bad ready to ball. It's not a lot of guys that I talk to's favorite in the red zone. Let's just put it that way. And yeah, BG, this was definitely Dalton's fail, or this was Dalton's Burton moment. But yeah, nasty. Let me see. Marcos, I said it because I think I thought I said Justin Fields first. But Justin Fields has definitely made plenty of rookie mistakes, and honestly, mesh is probably in the playbook for Fields. But that's definitely one where you're like, why is why is Dalton throwing it so late? Why isn't he just checking it down? There's so many whys with this game. I mean, that's nuts to me. That he got to it late, it was wide open, and then this happens. Like, this to me is where the game ended, right? Do we need to highlight it? Like, the Giants get properly punished, but it's wild to me that I knew you couldn't, Daniel. A special teams coordinator, right? Turned head coach. The returner looks back, says, "Oh no, it didn't bounce." And, I mean, 46 is celebrating like he did something, but 46 is also like, I can't believe this. Like, this to me was the moment I know I broke, where the Bears weren't playing well, and then this next play happens. And I don't know how all you Bears fans feel, but I think Eddie Jackson got robbed. Like, I would tell you that the play that we're about to watch, you know what, I'll play it first. Then we'll talk through it, okay? So, Jackson creeps up. It's Goldman that bursts through, turns the back. Immediately, Jackson hits him, strips him, recovers it. He's in the end zone. Referee comes through, calling forward progress, okay? Now, here's the thing. Me, personally, I would tell you... So, Daniel, I agree. But what I would tell you is that having watched enough football, if you're beyond the 10-yard line, heck, if you're beyond the 5-yard line, it's a fumble. Like, it's people only watch for forward progress like that tight, right? On 4th and 1s, maybe 4th and inches, and within the 5-yard line. Because everybody's thinking safety, right? You can't... Here's the thing, new poster. I hear you. It is forward progress. It's just not enforced a lot. That's really what I'm going for. Like, I've seen whether it's Cole Kmet fumbles or whether it's David Montgomery at one point got hit, driven backwards, and the ball was stripped out of his hands. Like, I see tons of people fumble off of 1 yard of forward progress loss, but inside the 5, everybody's watching the safety. The instant somebody takes a step back, you're getting called forward progress. It's not that it's improperly ruled, because they definitely drive him backwards, you know? Like, no question, he lost a yard right there. I think he gets jobbed purely because if it's at midfield, Eddie Jackson gets his fumble and his recovery. Maybe it's not a touchdown, right? But the referee's not going to give that one away, especially if it was like, I don't know, 2nd and 8, or something like that on this exact same play. It probably wouldn't work. But in this one, running back goes straight backwards, and it's just not going to matter. I think it's Angelo Blackson that bursts through the line here and makes the big play. But this was just nutty. Looking back, oh yeah, they took a false start. Ooh, it hurt. It could be new poster. It's not like I think he's... To be clear, I'm being pretty tongue-in-cheek when I say I think Eddie gets jobbed. Like, it's fine. But because like you're saying, Grant, it's not they stood him up and then they drove him backwards. It's pretty touch and go. If it was the Bears, we'd be calling for forward progress. I get it, you know? I'm not blind. But I would definitely say, or it's just interesting to me because watching that, I'm like, I've seen, like, do we remember that, did everybody see at one point OU was playing Kansas this year and the running back got driven about 4 yards backwards, then fumbled, and they called it. Urlacher at one point in 2005, I think it was, 2006, the Arizona We Are Who We Thought We Were, or R.I.P. Danny Green game, right? That one, Urlacher at one point stopped a running back, pulled him back for about a yard, then stripped the ball out. We called it, or like they called it. Referees like the chaos. Like, fumbles are fun, right? But inside this red area, you're getting your forward progress call. That's all I'm saying, is nobody calls forward progress like a referee standing right there. And that guy, you take an inch backwards, you sneeze going backwards, you got forward progress because they're all thinking about safeties. But so then from there, it is Blackson that bursts through, makes the big play, flashes the safety, and it's not super emphatic. It's really close. But 90 with the big play of the game, 1 sack, 1 safety, good overall, right? From there, I always think it's funny watching the punter on the kickoff set. I just think it's goofy looking, right? Grant takes it. He's gonna. I love the stutter. It's not like it works, but the ghost tackle is fun, right? Where Grant catches it. Watch what he does to this guy. I'm sure we all saw it, but full stop, gets the guy sliding forward. Hey, he did his job. He stopped him, right? But it is funny watching the you tackle the ghost kind of play. From there, it's a pretty simple like setup. I'll show one Darnell Mooney thing, but then we'll just kind of keep going, right? Because at this stage, it's 17-3 or 19-3. Mooney's gonna run the best curl, not of his life, but this is a really good one. Like watching this is great. When you do want to run a curl, and I think by the way it's a conversion curl. So I think that the Bears are running something that looks kind of like this, kind of a sail package, right? And I think Mooney realizes that his corner is coming there and just cuts it off into a curl at this spot. Because the way you watch him run this route, he recognizes that's not going to be open, stops, comes to a full stop, and then Dalton loads to throw. Like, that makes me think it's an option, but it's a great route. Then Mooney catches it, obviously rolls over his shoulder, picks up an extra 2 after the catch. But if it's intentionally a curl, Mooney's done a great job selling me that it wasn't, right? If it was an option, it's a well-read option where he gets his head around, puts the brakes on, slams it shut. Dalton does a nice job getting the throw over Jalen Smith. I'm not sure it's a well-run route either way, because if I'm not able to obviously tell exactly what Mooney's assignment is, he did a good job faking out even the guy in the sky, right? I'm not a genius. It's more to say that a well-run route looks like it could have been an option, I think, because a lot of well-run routes have that, I don't want to call it zest, that's stupid, but like they have enough to them that the corner has to think about what they might and might not be. This is a really nice play, by the way. They're going to run exactly what we complained about earlier, where they're going to have, let me go back a little bit. They have Allen Robinson run a curl, which draws the attention of one of the 2 safeties. So when Darnell Mooney runs a post over the top, he basically runs into that open space. Dalton throws this. I think Mooney has trouble finding it. Either that or the throw's just a little too far out, because I think Mooney ends up basically a little behind it, right? So I think a Madden receiver has an easier time with this, because the Madden receiver auto-locates the ball, right? But Mooney does a good job getting his head around. Dalton's placement is solid. It's not perfect, but he's got 51 in his face, like we just saw. So Mooney gets out there, tries to make a heck of a catch, because you say, Daniel, it's underthrown. Totally respect that. My opinion, yes, you'd like to put this in the end zone, but there's nothing wrong with putting it a little further out so that you have the receiver pivot from like this to that so that he breaks away from his DB when the DB's right there or so. But either way, it's a tough grab to make. Mooney does not come away with it, but you like the effort, especially when we're focused as much as we are on next year. Bears convert a field goal from here, right? Just basic stuff. They call a curl right there. Mooney gets to the 30. They end up getting a basic, like, chip shot field goal that comes off of 4 more yards from Allen Robinson. It was simple stuff. I mean, really it was. From there, the weird part is that the Bears then, like, so they get the field goal. I guess I could show it here. Just for the sake of, they kneel. Santos puts it through the uprights. The Bears head into the half 22-3 on a game that's getting less and less gamey as it goes on. The Bears also receive the ball, right? And so then they let the ball go. They start a drive, and it's like a long drive with full of plenty of mistakes. I mean, Grant, I think it was, because he got smoked. But that's practically his game, honestly. Like, I feel like Darnell takes some huge hits. But so there's some weird ones on this one. I mean, you get some easy plays like this where Montgomery's just so fun to watch. Plus the Bears on the immediate next play, they run one of the easiest looking RPOs that they've run basically all season, where Dalton's going to read Jalen Smith. If he drops, he's going to give the ball. If he stands where he is, Mooney's going to run a slant on him, and oh my gosh, does he smoke him. Like, RPOs don't get easier looking. But that one was as good as it gets, right? Just a quick little RPO you'll see again from the back end. Handoff, wide open, one of the easiest plays the Bears have run all season long. So then, right after that, the only explanation that I have for this one, because this is the Bears and they can't have nice things, is that they run an attempt at 4 verticals and they do a really bad job. Because what you're trying to do is obviously occupy 4 unique files of defensive attention, right? And so you want, say this was Montgomery, to have 4 guys all taking up all this space, so that then you can have, whether it's Mooney here, but I mean you'd probably want him over the middle or somewhere, right? I don't know, but Kmet and Montgomery are so similarly placed. I think somebody did something wrong. I have no idea, but these two are in a pretty normal 4 verts place. These two are lost. and then there's Mooney, who's just getting truly out of the way. I'm not sure. I wish I knew. I wish I had a better explanation or rationale. But hey, in the NFL, even in the NFL, people make mistakes sometimes. If this was some kind of weird follow me play, I haven't personally seen it before. But 2 guys run into the same spot with some open space prompts Dalton to just pop out and throw the ball away. Good on him. So then, second down, we're going to get some vintage A-Rob. Final, not wrong. Just a basic bubble RPO. Let me skip to some stuff. So that wasn't Dalton's only mistake. Here's vintage A-Rob on third down. Basic, out route, conversion, easy. This is the stuff we used to celebrate, and I mean celebrate in 2020 and 2019 and 2018 for good reason. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. And then Dalton makes, we're talking almost picks. This next one was the least bad of all of them, but it still qualifies. Where, let me see, the middle was still open, so it did what it was supposed to do. Maybe. Yes, Bob, but then there wasn't a, yes, it would have been if there was a check down in that area. But so anyways, getting back to this. This is a play action ball, if memory serves, because I've got the notes, where they're going to have Jimmy Graham run a corner that then converts into a backside wheel thing, right? Because I think it could be that way. Hard to tell the way Jimmy runs it, because Jimmy's just going to slip, and Dalton's already throwing the ball. So as soon as Jimmy slips, this goes right into a defender's hands at that stage, and Jimmy's not there. Now, was the throw on target? It's always going to be hard to tell. How fast is Jimmy Graham really going to turn the corner, right? Is that accurate given where it was? Well, it definitely wasn't once Jimmy slipped, but this was one of those that looked, I think, worse on the broadcast than it does on the All-22, where, yeah, the turf monster gets him. It's not the only slip of the day, and the safety almost ranges over and makes a play on it. But from there, Dalton tries to go Fields mode again. He's actually going to get the yards. Look at that. Look at number 14 go, right? He's going to get, if not all the way. No, he doesn't. He gets really close, though. And then a little bit further on, Bears run the exact same play they ran earlier. I'm talking the dagger-looking one, right? Where this time, Dalton's going to throw, I think, his best throw of the game to Cole Kmet right here. Apologies for the fuzzy camera. I'm not 100% sure what happened during my recording of this. But so, throw comes in hot, draws DPI. It's a well-thrown ball. I mean, for a tight end box-out kind of throw, this totally works. No problems with it. And so that's a solid play by Dalton, certainly. And then immediately after that, they punch it in for a touchdown. So a weird drive, because this was the vibe of the game, right? I feel like we've talked about this enough that you guys know how I'm feeling. It's like the Bears just bumbled and bounced their way into dominating the Giants, right? Where suddenly they're up no less than 3-29 in just a little over a half, even though they seemingly have made, I feel like, tons of mistakes. But it's not like the Giants did much to help themselves at this point. Yeah, kind of offensive narcolepsy. I like that way to put it. But so, yeah, I mean, after that, it's not like the defense didn't turn it up. They still made plenty of plays. But, like, for instance, here at the 41-minute mark, Eddie Jackson's going to knife through the line of scrimmage again, make a play again. There he is, number 4. Is just going to rip through off of a timed snap count, stuff up the running back, and stop him. Then this next one that I'll show you, I think, is a really nice encapsulation of the way this game really worked for the Giants. Like, if there was a play that I think perfectly describes it, besides the strip sack right at the very start, it's this one. Because finally, the Giants drop back to pass, and they get what they want, right? They get a running back wheel, or some call it a rail, on Roquan Smith. And technically, it's open, right? It's just going to take a really nice throw. Glennon just can't complete that throw, right? And it's not that Glennon blew the game for the Giants. Actually, Glennon probably blew the game for the Giants. I mean, hard not to say it. Where even the touch throw, even the one that's open, just tough, right? The NFL throw, if you will, he wasn't getting that. And the Giants have to punt again. Surprised this one wasn't blocked. I did catch this on rewatch. You're going to get this guy blasting around the edge so hard, so fast. I'm surprised he wasn't able to get a hand in. I'm wondering whether he was worried about like a roughing penalty or something like that, but he gets close. And they do, Daniel. Everybody gets one on Ogletree, unfortunately. But so, it's not as if, like, I don't know. At this point, it was 3-29, and the game entered this very weird and bizarre pseudo-comatose state, right? Where it's not as if the Bears weren't trying, but after pretty much this running play right here, where Monty just rips away from a tackle and pounds his way downfield. I mean, like, 32 is fun. No way around it, right? 32 is just a great time when he's got the ball. Again, just shedding a linebacker, driving forward. From there, I mean, the Bears, I don't know. It wasn't like the Bears were sleepwalking, necessarily. Mooney right there, if you couldn't tell, just bites it. Big turf monster energy on this one. And then the play after this, I think Dalton's going to get blocked to the line on this next one. I thought this play was really interesting. And if you can't tell, there's not really a greater point to be made in this play or in this game. We're mostly just truly watching through it because there wasn't much of a narrative outside of Glennon and the Giants were awful, right? But so the Bears are going to run that same RPO. They're going to run it with the same rule that they had with Jalen Smith sitting right there. But it gets blocked in the line, and it's probably good it did because Jalen was ready for that one, right? I don't know what would have happened. No, there's no saying that it was definitely an interception or something like that. But Jalen was ready for that throw. And who's to say it would have been or wouldn't have been intercepted? If anything, I think Dalton got lucky on this one that the ball got tipped at the line. They obviously don't convert it after that. They just call like a pretty simple Cole Kmet screen on 3rd and a lot and dump the ball off, take their L, and go home, right? But so when the Giants give the ball back, if the game wasn't over already, it's over on this next play. And if you know what I'm suggesting, then you probably know it's coming. Where the Giants start yet another drive, they run the ball, yet more plays, like run, get a fun little Glennon play action pass there. Gotta love it, right? And they just grind their way down the field until all of a sudden I don't actually know what down it is. We'll see it here in a little bit. Watch Sean Gibson, number 99, and just feast your eyes, truly. Because Gibson's going to rip under right there. He's going to slap the ball out of Mike Glennon's hands. And if the Giants thought the game wasn't over. Looks like it's second down. Now it probably is. 99 does a great job here. I mean, he's already got one forced fumble, but here he beats Nate Solder, real NFL tackle, gets his hand on the ball. Thank you. Dang it, Trevis Gibson. Thank you, Akusai. But awesome. Bears get the ball back, and they don't put points on the board. Why would they do that? Instead, Andy Dalton passes on a wide-open Darnell Mooney to instead throw to a covered Allen Robinson, and you guessed it, he throws a pick. This one is beyond me. Like, I would love to explain it. I don't have an explanation other than to say that pre-snap read Andy Dalton must have thought, all right, I'm definitely going to get Allen Robinson here, because this is as wide open gets. I mean, that's a terrible throw arc. But you put that ball out there, the safety that's bailing back is not driving on it. If they do, that's a heck of a play. Like, you probably want to put that on the line, but even so, you're going to get it right to him. Instead, we're going to throw it to the guy that James Bradbury is all over, and it ain't good. So interception immediately after that. But, like, exactly, BG. I mean, it's silly that we're having to argue Dalton over Foles, but Dalton's the one. I mean, look at that. Dalton's not on the team next year. If they don't, like, I don't get why they were playing Dalton, given that, I don't know, like, Foles is apparently awesome in the locker room. It's not to say that Dalton doesn't or isn't, but how do you pass on that to throw to that? I don't know. Like, seriously, I mean, I'm with you, new poster. It felt like the Giants not tried to lose, but accepted losing as soon as they were down 14-0. Like, it's like they had no trust in Glennon, and their trust was immediately verified. To say the worst part about saying it was a dismal game plan is like, yeah, it wasn't good. They lost, right? But that first play of the game, that strip sack, that's not how that play's drawn up, which sucks for them, right? But so, I mean, there's only like 2 more plays that we would even want to go over. Because like we're watching, I'm just going to let some game film roll in the back. At this point, it was elementary. Like, Dalton threw his interception, yes, but to go back a little further, because we like to, Travis Gibson rips around. Travis Gibson, like, makes a huge play, and the game, if it hadn't ended, it pretty much ended. Like, the interception made it funny. Everybody on Twitter all made the same joke, right? Where they all said collectively that, oh, well, Dalton's been trying all day to throw one of these. Like, he finally got his wish. So, if nothing else, for the box score scouts, I was glad Dalton threw one, because he had earned it, right? Borum with another solid block. Me personally, when I say Borum strikes me similarly to Charles Leno, this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about, where he gets pretty well walked back into the face of the quarterback. The quarterback's just not really bothered by it, because there's a lot worse that you could be than walked back, right? Instead of getting beat around the edge, Borum, more often than not, struggles, when he struggles, with getting pushed pretty much straight backwards. And so, it's not that I think, oh wow, Borum's gonna suck, because Charles Leno just got extended for $37 million over 3 years. League thinks he's pretty good. But instead, I would look at Borum and say, if he can become Leno-like, like a solid medium to low-end starter, out of the 5th round, that's a huge win. New poster, I'm with you. I've never seen a coach give up after 2 drives, and I have never seen a coach work so hard to justify themselves after the game. Like, since then, holy moly, Joe Judge's whole, like, our locker room loves us. I've had players from around the league calling me, saying wishing they were play for us. Like, the Joe Judge defense tour since this game has been goofy, to say the least. I don't know what's going on. I have no idea. But it's definitely strange. Artie Burns almost comes away with a pick 6, by the way. Like, this was hilarious. That after all this, right? After the sacks, after the fumbles, Artie Burns jumps in front of another route, can't come down with it, And I mean, there's that old joke of like, that's why they're playing defense. But this is one that I'm sure Burns is still thinking about because he's about to be a free agent. And things like this, like pick sixes, go a long way. Yeah. Right, Daniel? But so really the only two plays that I think are worth talking about at this point. If it was me, new poster, it depends on the defense. I think Artie Burns is taking to this defense solidly, but I'm happy with oh yeah, Bob. It's weird. Just to throw that out there. I'm really happy with Graham. Like, whether he's the nickel corner or the CB2, I'm willing to try either. Know that my expectations aren't that high. And not to mention, you've got to at least add some solid bodies. Like, you need better depth than what the Bears have at this point. But the, yeah, exactly, Rick. I hope he can too. But so, to get back to CBs, there's a lot that the Bears, I think, could add, frankly, should add. Graham, I like him starting eventually. If he can play outside corner, you want him to. It's all a matter of what defense the Bears want to run. Because if they switch to like a man match defense, I don't think he'll be quite as successful as the zone match defense that they're currently running. So as long as what they do is relatively zony, he'll be fine. At least I think so. Frankly, he'll probably be fine either way. He's a talented kid. But I would worry more about his fit if they switch too heavily. I fully expect Sean decided to go with Nagy, right? When the head coach gets fired, it's pretty much assumed that everybody else is gone, and it will just shock me if somebody retains Sean Desai. But as long as there's, like, say, a Fangio-esque disciple in the room, Graham will be great. If they switch to something more zony, I think he'll be good. But if they go full Pagano, per se, I think that people will say, why were we ever excited about Graham? But you get the idea. And yeah, I mean, with Artie Burns, the trouble is that plenty of people have seen the Burns flashes before, and they've come away with not a great player. Burns got destroyed, like started around Thanksgiving, for instance. He's just getting toasted left and right, no less. I get that you live with the bad plays. I do, but I don't know. I wouldn't be handing Burns a multi-year contract all of a sudden. And I don't know if I'd keep him around as like a 1-year deal either. That was a crappy throw, by the way. I haven't seen that one yet, but this throw looks like it comes out wobbly. Dalton was not playing well. Maybe it was tipped to the line. Maybe. Hard to tell. But it's worth remembering Artie Burns was a former first-round pick picked by the Steelers that has played plenty of games. So he's more Deion Bush than Thomas Graham at this point. It's neat to see him developing, but it matters at this stage that Thomas Graham is obviously super young, whereas Burns, while not old, would require an extension, which makes it more complicated. But so, thoughts on wide receiver pickups now that the top two have torn their ACLs? Ooh, it's complicated. I think Mike Williams makes a lot of sense. I think potentially gambling on somebody for slightly less money, say, like Chris Godwin makes a lot of sense, or Michael Gallup. Michael Gallup's awesome. If his ACL comes back all right, he was never the fastest guy in the first place, so it's not like he's losing some awful or awesome weapon. He's very A-Robbie in that sense, where A-Rob's ACL doesn't hurt him like it would, say, Darnell Mooney, or Tariq Cohen is another example of an ACL injury that might just be flat-out career-ending, because if Michael Gallup loses 5% of his speed, he's still exactly the same receiver, honestly. But if Chris Godwin loses 5% of his speed, things may change. I don't know. I'd still offer. I'm not that scared, but that's mostly because I am the crazy guy who would be perfectly fine loading up on offense in 2022 and letting the defense sort of, I don't want to say rot, but fend it for themselves a little bit as the Bears kind of figure everything out. I think it'll take time. I really do. This is not, I think, a 1-year turnaround, but that's the thing, Grant. I'm with you, where I think if you did get a top 5 wide receiver, you're thinking more about 2023, right? You're saying, how can I get Fields some experience with Mooney, Michael Gallup, and Jakeem Grant? I don't know. In an offense more centered around it. I don't think Juju's a problem. I think a lot of fans hate Juju Smith-Schuster, but he's a solid blocking wide receiver, solid possession receiver. I mean, he's a good player, right? There are a lot of people that I don't think like his attitude. They call him TikTok boy. You get the idea. But as a football player, you could do a lot worse than Juju. He's just probably kind of annoying. But so yeah, we're coming up on the only play, or one of the only two plays that really matters here, where Glennon's going to find one. Olave would be awesome, Colin. I think that second round pick's going to be really interesting. I want that third round pick to be a safety if I got to choose, right? But I do want them to add somebody in free agency. I think that would be really helpful for them. A second round wide receiver makes a lot of sense. Please don't trade up. But frankly, I'd love to see if they trade back. But so this was hilarious to me, by the way. This is where we start Quinn's chase for the fumble, right? Or for the record. I don't think so. Somebody asked about wide receiver depth. As I understand it, not really. There's been a great wide receiver depth, not this year. But so Quinn, at this stage, works his way around, right? And he almost gets the sack, but not quite. Like, avoids the chip, waves a paw at the ball, and Glennon takes off for a Glennon scramble, where it is hilarious watching Glennon scramble because he's still faster than Foles. and that is funny to me. This just reminds me that you can be this tall, and you still don't have to move as awkwardly as Nick does. Nick just does. But so, yeah. Then as they keep going, I think they run the ball again. They do. Boring. Only boring because of where we are. Quinn gets close on a second play, not just a few later. You have to wonder whether 94 could smell it in the water. Like, beautiful club move, gets close, but not quite, right? And so right here, we'll show it again. Beautiful, truly, like I think they call it a club rip, as he gets through, almost gets the sack, but doesn't quite get there. The first sack that's taken back, Daniel, of course we do. That's this one, or it's not this one. So we got to go one more. Then we get this play where Quinn and Irvin get there at the same time, and Quinn has set the record. Oh, but a flag. Now, what's interesting is that the scorekeeper actually had this going to Irvin anyways. So it's not the story it looks like, because they said Irvin got there first. Film confirms they're correct. So they wouldn't have given this to Quinn. Quinn wouldn't have gotten a half sack in this. It would have been all Irvin. Instead, it doesn't count. And then finally, Quinn does it. In 16 games, we don't have to have any weird conversations about Richard Dent and whether it's the 17 game asterisk and so on and so forth. 94 just rips around the edge, spins, and hits him. Awesome to see him do it. Really, really amazing turnaround. I mean, this 94, look, if you haven't seen my Rule of 3 video, you should. You're basically going to see old school Quinn, right? But wait, Ejax just looks like he was waiting on him. I have to know. Oh my gosh! Was he? Did he? Holy crap! I didn't see this. This is the ultimate team move. Jackson has a free run at the quarterback and just parks it. That's so funny. Quinn comes through, gets the strip sack. Jackson almost gets on the ball, but that is hilarious. I never saw this. I didn't see this the first time. Like, I didn't look and think to myself, oh, what did Four do? But he absolutely gives it to him. I mean, I don't think there's any... Let's put it this way. Eddie Jackson's not playing contain on Mike Glennon. And he's got a straight visual shot at Quinn. Like, I think he did, A-Song. So he comes, let's see where his eyes go. So he's watching, but I think he sees that Quinn's beating his man and stops because Quinn gets by him. Like, that's crazy. That's so funny that on this record-breaking sack, Jackson parks it. Like, big teammate energy, right? That's so fun. And then Nagy calls the timeout. Everybody celebrates. Well-deserved. And hooray. everybody's excited. Now, there's a play that I need to go through and find because I forgot that they throw another interception. I don't remember this one. A-Song. So the question becomes, did Roquan call it or did Nagy call it via Roquan, right? Who's to say? But we can give the credit to Nagy because, that and his Thanksgiving Day trophy or whatever, right? He can get out of town with a smile on his face. We can be nice about it. But so, I think so, anyways. But so, let's see. I don't remember this turnover. I don't remember it. Let's see. Man. Is it just a bracket? Because it looks like the C's part and gracious. That's a great play by Bush. Honestly. So Bush is right here. And if you watch him, you'll see he's going to pass off 88 to Ogletree and immediately fade back to where Glennon's eyes are looking. And as he does, he just grabs himself an interception. It's a bad throw. Maybe Glennon was trying to junk the ball. Maybe Glennon knew. But this is terrible. Just watching this play with what I'm trying to keep as any objective eye, it's a good play by Bush, but it's not a good throw either. The ball comes wobbly out of his hands. Does he get tipped? That's one of the only explanations that I could think of for a ball this wobbly. Just talking out loud, right? Where Glennon's going to take it. He's going to throw it. Nichols must tip it. Nichols must have. Because there's no way that an NFL quarterback threw a ball that wobbly. But Bush comes down with it. Good for him. And this sets up maybe the funniest play that I've seen the Bears run in years. So, eons ago, if y'all can remember, eons, right? The Bears played the Seahawks in what I want to say was the 2000. Somebody help me out. They played the 7-9 Seahawks with Jay Cutler, Matt Forte, and others, and they smoked them. And somewhere around the middle to end of the game, Matt Forte lined up and threw an interception off the Wildcat. No kidding, Grant. They feel like they both come. And this next play that we're about to watch completely called me back to that legendary running backs in Chicago getting their chance in the Wildcat. And man, is this INT bad. It's funny, too, because I feel like the best part about this, so Montgomery's going to get this. He's going to grind his way, or at least he's going to try. They're going to end up 4th and 4. They're going to go for it because who cares, they say. And they're right. Who cares? Love the Bears, but who cares? And yeah, I'm with you, A-Song. We've been waiting on the Montgomery pop pass all season long. And what I think is hilarious about this is that Nagy's era, right, is going to be encapsulated. If you were to try to tie a bow on it, I feel like you could encapsulate it by saying it has been decent ideas sometimes that involve putting the wrong player in the wrong spot, or maybe the right player in the wrong spot. They're going to pop pass for Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet is going to technically get wide open on the elbow right here, and Montgomery's just going to short arm it, right? He's got the ability to set better than that. Instead, he throws a lofty ball that says, apparently not everybody can play quarterback, and Cole Kmet misses out on an easy touchdown. And it's funny. I mean, hey, if you had the Cole Kmet anytime, or if you had bet Cole Kmet anytime TD, maybe Glennon had too, and that's part of why he threw the interception. Heck if I know. But Kmet gets open. That's not the question. We're right there. He's gonna throw somebody on the on the ground and turn around. But the problem is he throws it so middle instead of down the field. I don't know where the play calls to go, but the ball's short even if there's nobody there, right? And it's hilarious because I mean it's an interception, it's a turnover, it's the worst result possible on this play, and who cares? It's fourth down. I get it. Like this is one of those that you put in your back pocket all season, and you have fun with it when you get there. But it's just so funny because I really would have expected that right there, Montgomery could have taken a full step back. Like you could just coach him to throw the ball normally, right? It doesn't have to be a jump pass. And it's not the greatest jump pass in the world. I mean, hey, not even Fields has been all that good, right? But it was so funny to me anyways to just see this. And yeah, we paid Jimmy Graham for that one tackle. No, Bob, we paid Jimmy Graham for that win in Seattle. That play was still nuts. Yeah, BG, I think he was. So it's not a good throw. But hey, let's be honest. Sometimes the bad throws are more fun than the good ones. And that's just the mess of a Giants game. Like, over the last 3 hours, you've seen some really messy Bears offense. You've seen the Bears offense do some things right. You've seen the Giants offense run block their butts off. You've seen Mike Glennon pretty much throw the game away. And my favorite, you've seen a running back throw an interception, and you saw a kick returner just not return the ball, like on the kickoff, and it led to a safety. Hopefully you had a good time. Bears season's really weird right now. I mean, Bears get Justin Fields back next week, which is great, because even if the game isn't meaningful, the reps are, right? But this game with Andy Dalton, who is not on the team next year, and Artie Burns making plays, who's not on the team next year, and Tashawn Gibson collecting interception, he's not on the team next year, and Eddie Goldman, like, making some stops, or Akeem Hicks, like, not on the team, 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 on the team. Nope, not on the team. That's this game, for crying out loud. Like, some of it's refusal to play the young guys, right? Some of it is just the nature of the Bears and their one-year deals. But it is hilarious looking at this Bears defense and the offense and just recognizing how many of these players have no bearing on next year's team or the year after that. So it's cool that we got Sam Kamara some snaps. It's cool that, like, Eddie Jackson and Jalen Johnson and Roquan are out there making plays. But it was just funny watching a game where we, like, to give an example, you're watching this and you're like, I hate this scheme. Well, the coach is going to get fired, so the scheme's going to change. And this quarterback isn't here. Like, he won't be here. And this receiver, he won't be here. And this receiver, he won't be here. This left tackle, not going to be here. This center, probably benched. We can only hope, right? Black's in his new poster, but I think it was Hicks, Goldman, and Nichols in on that play. So you just end up watching this Bears team with James Daniels. We don't know if he'll be here. We'll see. We're mostly just waving goodbye to a Matt Nagy era that needs to end as soon as possible. And hey, on Sunday we'll get to watch our favorite quarterback, or at least our future quarterback. Hopefully he's your favorite. But why didn't Foles play this game? I don't know. You want my honest opinion? I would swear to you it's almost vindictive. Like, maybe Colin, maybe. It almost feels that way. Almost. I don't think Nagy's that spite. He could be. He really could be. But the point being that, yeah, I mean, we watched a messy Giants team lose a messy game with a quarterback that had like a QBR of 5 or something like that. Which, remember, that scale goes up to 158. BG, if there's anything that I want to see Fields improve on from his last game against the Vikings, I want to see Fields go a whole game without doing something hopelessly bad. Like, could be, but, or Pinky Promise, like, new poster. To give you a very specific thought, BG, when Fields runs the ball, Don't fumble. When Fields, frankly, no fumbles all game. He doesn't have to be perfect. We saw Dalton do some hopelessly stupid stuff. So to say that Fields can't, that doesn't make any sense. But I want to see Fields try to throw 2 touchdowns in a game, for crying out loud. Like, move up and down the field functionally the same way that they did last game. I would love to see Nagy let Fields just throw the ball. And you know what? If he throws a couple of interceptions, I'll live with it. For me, and I mean this very seriously, I could care less if Fields is throwing interceptions. He's also pretty naturally good at avoiding them. So far, a lot of his interceptions have been, really fluky. That's just my 2 cents. But where Dalton and so on and so forth is he had 3 picks get dropped in this game, Fields seems to get most of his caught, which it's not good. His turnover worthy play rate is high for a reason, especially because of all the fumbles. Like, all the fumbles are just gnarly. But I would love to see him continue to operate in the pocket like he has. He's gotten a lot better at that. Like, the way that he's moving in the pocket is just different. And it was from this last Vikings game. I want to see some strikes, obviously. But you asked for something to improve on. So for me, it would be see if you can go a whole game playing as the new and improved pocket passing Justin Fields that's also got the electric legs when he needs them, and do it without jump passing on a screen. Do it without fumbling on a run play, right? Do it without the things that are just killing him right now, and it's simply put, turnovers. So will he throw an interception? If he does, that'll make me dramatically less angry than if he fumbles, because past a certain point, let's put it this way, BG, past a certain point, the fumbles are a real problem that may never go away. And if you get to that point, it's Daniel Jones bad. It's Jameis Winston bad. And it may stay that way. It's hard to shake that, right? But I think ball security is something that can be improved and learned. And I would hope it is, right? So if it is, and if it improves, and if he can show that he can at least go like 1 game without one of these near the end of the season, there's a lot to hope for. It's not hopeless either way. This game, truly, it's kind of meaningless, right? Fields is going to do most of his improvement, not this week, but over the offseason. He's going to talk to Darnell Mooney, throw around with him, the only wide receiver on the roster, right? He's going to work with a quarterback's coach. He's going to have people throw brooms in his face and so on and so forth, and simulate pressure and work on his mechanics, maybe reroute his throwing motion, stuff like that. That's all going to happen this offseason. That's a very big deal for us Bears fans, but it would be nice if he gave us something to get excited about, right? Bob, it's a little of everything with Jameis, but so I would love for Fields to give us that something to get excited about. But yeah, like my personal 2 cents is that there is a lot to be excited about with Fields. Like, the key to me, BG, is right now Fields' positives are obvious. When he rolls out and he's got somebody where he's got to thread a needle, he can thread that needle. When he makes 3 guys miss in the pocket, works out to the side and finds Jimmy Graham for a quick 3rd down conversion, and the throw gets tipped as it leaves his hand and falls incomplete, I see those 3 people that he danced around. I see in the Detroit Lions game that spin that he had that got Cole Kmet wide open, and they didn't find each other. But like you're saying, Ready to Ball, his work in the pocket, where he's understanding where rushers are, is getting better. You can tell, because instead of getting like a lot of these brain dead Mike Glennon sacks where it's as if he just doesn't even know the rusher's there, Fields isn't giving those up. Last one he gave up was Green Bay, and he was throwing on time. Like, there was nothing wrong with when Fields was bringing his arm back. That happens to everybody eventually when a quarterback wants to hit a deep shot. The trouble is that when you're running the ball as a quarterback that can run, you cannot fumble. And that's what Fields needs to do. I mean, he's just got to make sure that he only gives up the turnovers that the defense earns. Let me put it that way, right? If the defense earns an interception, in theory, Fields could easily become that guy, just saying, that gets 3 touchdowns and gives up a turnover every game. Those exist, right? I feel like Deshaun Watson can be in that category, or could have been. But they're out there. Guys that they'll turn the ball over some. Kyler is another good example of this. Kyler Murray. You can get a turnover off of Kyler. The question is whether you can make it count enough, because it's almost guaranteed, at least it used to be, that Kyler's going to come back and score on you, and Fields can be that guy. The question is, like Dak's, I think Dak's another solid example, right? Where you've just got to make sure you're not giving away these free ones, right? When Fields steps up in the pocket and doesn't pull the ball down, and somebody slaps him on the arm, and he, like, oh, you better believe it, PG. But so somebody slaps him on the arm in Baltimore, and he falls over, and the ball leaks out in front. The defender jumps on it. That's a free turnover. The Vikings game, when he's running to the right, and a defender runs right at him, hits him, like, on the arm, and the ball pops out. That's a free turnover. Those, when he jumps in the air to try to throw a screen pass and gets dunked on the ground, and the ball pops out, they're lucky they got it back, but that is still a free turnover. Does that make sense? Where the player made a mistake, like a massive error, right? Let me give you an example of a free turnover, right? In no world should this happen. This sack is unacceptable. The fact that it's a fumble is even further unacceptable. That doesn't work. Part of the reason that Mike Glennon just got tanked on by the Bears is because he kept just giving the ball away. I think there's a huge difference between a giveaway and a takeaway, and Mike Glennon just kept giving the ball away to the Bears in different forms and fashions. Fields is doing the same thing. Like, Fields' ball security is bad. When Fields gets hit, there's always a chance that the ball's going to pop out, and I think it can get better. I really do. Like, I think that he's gotten better as is. He's just trying to do too much. I would love to see a Justin Fields right now that becomes, I don't want to say patient, and gosh, I don't want to say complacent, but that recognizes that this isn't the final edition of Justin Fields, and that he'll be here next year with a new team and a new coach that'll be different. But also, the Vikings game that Justin Fields played was surprisingly clean from the pocket. He got sacked twice. Just twice, for crying out loud. That screen sack, that's one of them. So, like, Fields took a 12-yard, or I guess 2 12-yard sacks, but he used to get sacked 5 times a game. Now it's just 2. That's good. Like, he's making real, tangible improvements. He's getting better. But, I don't know. Daniel, I think it's because they just felt like they were getting demolished. It felt like the Giants in this game just packed it in, right? It really did. And that's the funny thing, ready to ball. The complex part of this is that you don't want to limit the hero ball. It's really, really touch and go. Because as soon as you tell Fields that he can't be a hero, you lose that edge that makes him the potential immaculate player that we've seen that he can be. The question is, how do you get him to be smart about when to pull out the hero card and when to just take a chill pill? It's 1st and 10. We don't need you to jump pass on the screen. Does that make sense? It's not 3rd down. On 3rd down, do whatever you want. Just don't fumble, right? But on 1st down, you can just take the L. Take a breath. It'll be all right. Does that make sense? It's about finding a balance with Justin Fields so that let's go back to it. I mean, I know I have it in my files right here. Let me put it this way. The game that I personally think we saw, like, the play the Bears cannot lose, right, was, let's see if we can't find it. You guys are already going to know what I'm looking for. But so, let me see. Fields drives down. It's got to be, how deep in the game is it? Was it not that deep? I don't convert it here. You guys can clearly tell I'm struggling to remember where this was. That's what happens when I don't have my notes. We'll catch you next week. Absolutely, Daniel. But I want to watch this play one more time. Oh, I think it's right here. I think I finally found it. So these moments, like ready to ball, are the ones where broken play and he's just going to become an athlete. We obviously know that. He breaks one. He breaks two. He breaks 3 tackles. He finds a seam, cuts into the middle, and makes a play happen. Right? I've got one more if you want to see one, because I can think of one that's passing and one that's throwing. Right? So this is probably the most spectacular play Fields made all season. Right? Akin to the Detroit scramble that Mitch Trubisky had in 2017 on on 4th and 22 or whatever it was. This is the hero ball part you absolutely want Fields to keep. You know what I mean? Why would you ever want a player to lose that edge? Another example would be, and this next one's actually to come from a pretty bad game overall. Like, Fields had his moments in Bears-Packers Week 6, but he didn't play like a consistent game. He was either good on a drive or he was bad on a drive. But there's no doubt in my mind that I think it's this drive. It is. I found the play. I'm so glad I did. This play was heroic as well. Like, this one where if you remember, Allen Robinson's going to work up the seam, realize that he has something open, and find room for Justin Fields. But Fields is also going to feel pressure in the pocket, extend the play. Robinson and Fields basically make that connection right there. And Fields is going to draw or create space, reset his feet in the pocket, and just rip into the middle of the field for a beautiful drive starter on, you guessed it, it's 3rd freaking down. Like, right here. This is a great play. And it basically bails the Bears out on a bad drive, and all of a sudden the offense just sort of unlocks that potential for let me see, 3rd and short to mid, pull the card out. Yeah, exactly. It's the sort of thing where I think that there's a balance Fields has to learn. Because, hey, if you see an opportunity on 2nd and 10 to do something special, take it. No problem, right? You just can't give away the free ones. Like, that's beautiful. Immediately, as soon as you make that heroic play, suddenly the Packers are on their heels. Suddenly Cole Kmet is wide open. This, by the way, is where Cole Kmet's separation metrics are funny to me, because we've talked about it on this channel, but like, nobody's covering him. To say that that's separation feels like a lie to me, because I mean, he's just kind of naturally open based on where the zones are. But I think it'll be a balance. The new coach will have to work on it with him. Right? Everybody will have an opportunity to kind of give their opinion, because the real and simple way to put it is that you're not going to win a whole lot of games. Ooh, can I get it? Let's see. They punt. Is it on the first drive? No, it's not on the first one. It's a little further, right? But so, let's see here. Vikings score. They give the Bears the ball back. What a weird game. Yeah, I think it's right here, right? The other side is this, and this is just unacceptable. Like, this to me isn't even heroic, right? Let me see. +1 hero plays per game as a good goal, or 1+. Yeah, no, I'm with you. Converting deep shots, making the Graham pass that he misses, good places to start, right? But the let me see. Yeah, Cole does seem to be good on seam routes, especially when he's left wide open. Stuff like this, to me, BG and ready to ball, are exactly where I look at it, and it's like, what you're about to see isn't even an attempt at playing hero ball. This is just crappy ball security, right? And so you can't give free turnovers away like this. I don't even think Fields' hero ball is really getting him into trouble nowadays. It's mostly just that you've got to cut out the stupid stuff, right? Like, you can't give up a fumble there. You've got to know when a screen is just dead. And he's learning a lot of the limits. Hey, to give him some credit, we can close on this, right? I would tell you that, in my opinion, Fields right now is like a bowling ball. Let me see. Hey, Elon, that's awesome. Have a great night. So yeah, go get that sleep. But so Fields is like a bowling ball that's rattling down a lane, right? And it's basically moving that way. So then he hits an edge and he rebounds that way. And a hook? What? You guys have hooks? But so then he hits this bumper and he bounces that way. And then he hits this bumper and he bounces that way. And the reason that I point all this out is just to say that every time Fields fumbles against the Vikings, I think he's legitimately getting better, right? Oh no. Like bumpers in this case, Elon, I'm using them just so that we can give the image. For me, the key is whether he makes the same mistakes twice. But it's right now he's making a whole bunch of, oh well, that's the first time he's done that. Oh well, that's the first time he's done that. I think he got a ton better from step one to now. But yeah, I don't know. We will see how it goes. You guys are amazing. Feel free to support the channel if you like my content. I love doing it for you, so you don't have to by any means. Just know that every little bit helps. You guys are phenomenal. Have a great rest of your week. We will obviously, we'll get back with a post-game podcast on Sunday. They haven't been there because I've been out of town for a lot of different things, so I've been recording off site basically, but I gotta make sure I get these things uploaded, so that's on me. But after that, we'll hit off-season stuff. We'll get big deep in Justin Fields, season-long studs and duds, breakdowns of all sorts of different types, I'm sure, and we'll go from there. You guys are great. Love y'all so much. Have a great rest of your evening, and bear down. Thanks so much for bearing with me.